Chapter 542. Granny Li looked at Wu Junshan thoughtfully and asked, "Sect Master Wu, may I ask where your wife went?" Wu Junshan's expression did not change, but his heart skipped a beat. Even he did not know where his wife went. Ever since that incident, he and his wife had been separated. Although the matter of his wife going out was very strange, he did not look into it and was perfunctorily brushed aside by Wu. Seeing that Wu Junshan took the initiative to mention it, he suddenly had a bad premonition. She went out to travel. Huh, is that so? As far as I know, in the past 20 years, she has never taken half a step out of the martial organization. Why is she in the mood to travel now? Granny Li asked. A person's mood changes. She didn't like to go out before, but that doesn't mean she won't like to go out now or in the future. Don't tell me you don't even understand this principle? Wu Junshan asked. Granny Li did not mind, and the smile on her face became even wider. Sect Master Wu's words are really sharp. If I didn't know where your wife went, I might have been stumped by your question. Wu Junshan's eyelids twitched, and he subconsciously looked at Wu. Wu's face flashed with panic. Li Palace controlled the world's intelligence. Could it be that they really found the whereabouts of Master's wife? She faintly had a bad premonition. ******, my disciple once told me a strange thing. The wife of the martial organization Sect Master left the martial organization for no reason and went to see that cultivator called Tangjing. Moreover, she even started a massacre for him. I really can't figure out the mystery behind this. I wonder if Sect Master Wu can tell me a thing or two." Granny Li directly exposed the loophole in Wu Junshan's words. Wu Junshan's mouth twitched. This was indeed out of his expectations. Even he did not know the whereabouts of his wife, but she was discovered by the Li Palace. But why did his wife go find Tangjing? Could it be that she knew about that matter? She did not ask about the affairs of the sect all year round, so who told her? Wu. Suddenly, this name came out from the bottom of his heart. He immediately turned to look at his disciple and found that her expression was indeed strange. As the person who had raised her since she was young, he knew her as well as her father. From this slight change, he could tell that she had lied to him. She definitely knew about this matter, and it was very likely that she had leaked the truth to his wife. He tried his best to conceal this matter, but he did not expect that Wu would tell his wife, leading to the current situation. For a moment, he was a little flustered, but as the sect master of the martial arts sect, his ability to adapt on the spot was unparalleled. He immediately calmed down and glared at Granny Li, saying, "This is my family's business. There's no need to tell you." Granny Li smiled, and the wrinkles on her face blossomed, making her look somewhat sinister. She turned her eyes and glanced at the Great Elder. The Great Elder tacitly understood and immediately took over the conversation. He righteously said, "Sect Master, this is not your family's matter, but a major matter that concerns the martial sect. You must make it clear." Wu Junshan was enraged. "Grand Elder, since when is it your turn to question me? Who taught you the rules? This is going against your superiors, do you understand? That's not right. When the old sect master passed the position to you, he clearly said that the four of us would assist you in governing the martial arts sect, so as to prevent you from making any mistakes. Although third brother and fourth brother are no longer here, second brother and I have the responsibility and obligation to correct your mistakes in time, so as to prevent the martial sect from being led into a situation of eternal damnation." The Great Elder said with certainty. "I am the sect master. How can you interfere with my words and actions? Grand Elder, you have colluded with outsiders to interfere with the martial arts sect's matters. You have already broken the rules set by our ancestors. Are you forcing me to use the family's laws?" Wu Junshan was a smart person. He took the initiative to point out that the other side had colluded with outsiders. This was a crime that all the sects and personnel hated. No one liked people who lived off others while helping others. But the great elder was not intimidated by this crime. He fearlessly said, "Do you want to use this crime to nail me to death?" Humph, the old sect master had long expected this day to come. He left behind a personal letter. "If you do not listen to the advice of us elders, we have the right to remove you from the position of sect master and find someone else to replace you." As he spoke, he carefully took out a tightly wrapped letter from his bosom. Unfolding it, it was surprisingly carved with words. "Take a look and see if this is the old sect master's handwriting?" the great elder asked proudly. Wu Junshan's pupils shrank as he stared at the letter. His mind was greatly shaken. Of course he recognized the old sect master's handwriting. Without a doubt, this was the old sect master's handwriting. Moreover, it was as the great elder said. If Wu Junshan did not listen to the elder's advice and did something harmful to the martial arts sect, the elders had the right to remove him and replace him with someone else. When he passed the position to me, he was actually on guard against me. No wonder he appointed the 4 elders to assist me. This is to monitor me and be on guard against me. Wu Junshan silently thought. He had a close relationship with the old sect master. Like Wu Junshan, he was also an orphan raised by the old sect master. The two of them were like father and son. However, he never thought that the old sect master would be on guard against him. Knowing this fact really caused him to have mixed feelings, and his heart was as cold as ice. A person he respected and trusted had been on guard against him from the beginning to the end, treating him like an enemy. This feeling could only be best understood by the person involved. Of course, he did not suspect that the great elder had forged this letter. Because each stroke was carved with a knife and an axe, no one else could forge the charm. However, Wu Junshan's reaction was extremely fast. A strange look flashed across his face, but he immediately calmed down and shouted, "Ridiculous, great elder, you colluded with outsiders to steal my sect master's position. You are truly deranged. You actually used such a despicable method. You did not hesitate to imitate the old sect master's handwriting to force me to do it. However, you are wrong. If I really did do it, then the old sect master would not be able to rest in peace. Since you colluded with outsiders, then you are a traitor of the martial sect." "Men!" Wu Junshan roared, and a group of people rushed in through the door. "The great elder has colluded with outsiders with ill intentions. He has already betrayed the martial sect. Capture him." Wu Junshan took the initiative and announced righteously. Everyone looked at each other, not knowing what to do. The great elder's face was ashen as he roared angrily, "Wu Junshan, you are slandering me. You clearly have an ulterior motive. Not only did you go against the martial sect's principles, you may even lead the martial sect to eternal damnation. That's why you're the traitor of the martial sect. Disciples of the martial sect, listen to my orders. We've already removed Wu Junshan from the position of sect leader. Capture him and punish him." The two of them spoke righteously. Everyone looked at each other, not knowing who to listen to. After all, these two were the highest in the martial sect. Seeing this, Wu Junshan stomped his foot and shouted angrily, "Are you going to disobey?" Everyone's heart trembled. No longer daring to hesitate, they swarmed towards the great elder. The great elder was furious as he shouted, "You dare to listen to the orders of a traitor? Death is not enough. I will help the sect master clean up the sect." The great elder was like a fierce tiger descending from the mountain as he rushed into the crowd. Every move he made was extremely ruthless. All of them were killing moves. The people at the front immediately fell to the ground, blood splattering everywhere. Blood immediately filled the air, stimulating people's nerves, causing the blood in their blood vessels to become restless. Granny Lee was still smiling. No one could get close to her. She was like an outsider spectator, watching the group of people kill each other. Her wrinkles relaxed. Hee, interesting. I didn't expect to see such a good show after following the sect master's orders to come to the martial sect. No wonder the revered lord was still worried about Wu Junshan and wanted to test him again. This person is really not easy to control. He is decisive when it comes to killing, and his mind is sharp. If not for sufficient preparation, I'm afraid that the backup plan left behind by the old sect leader would be useless, unable to withstand a single blow. Granny Li silently pondered as she turned her gaze towards Wu Junshan. His eyes were filled with murderous intent, and his tall stature gave him the aura of an ambitious and ruthless person. An ambitious and ruthless person. There are many ambitious and ruthless people in this world, but they are not worth mentioning in front of the sect master. The martial sect and the Li Palace are the sect master's chess pieces. How could the sect master watch as the chess pieces leave his hands? Since Wu Junshan is not sensible, then we'll get rid of him and find another obedient person for this position. Who dares to touch the great elder? Do you want to rebel? Suddenly, a group of people rushed in and one of them shouted. This person was the second elder, who was ranked second among the 4 great elders. When he saw the great elder being besieged in the crowd, he was unable to restrain his anger. He instantly understood what was going on and immediately shouted, "Boss, don't worry, I'm here to save you. Everyone, listen up. Wu Junshan has already betrayed the martial sect. He no longer has the qualifications to be our sect leader. Now, we must clean up the sect. Anyone who dares to help Wu Junshan will be killed without question." As soon as he finished speaking, he rushed in with the people behind him. Suddenly, the hall became extremely crowded with hundreds of people. These people were not mediocre. There was no lack of post-celestial and post-celestial experts. When they rushed in, the momentum was terrifying. Soon, blood flowed like a river and many people fell on the ground. They might have been fellow disciples drinking and chatting merrily yesterday, but today, they had become life and death enemies, pointing their swords at each other. Life was full of changes, it was just like that. Seeing people fall one by one, Wu Junshan's breathing could not help but quicken. In fact, he had only taken over the position of sect master for a few years. In the past, the old sect master's authority was very strong. When he was alive, he had perfect control over the martial sect. In these years, Wu Junshan had worked hard to gradually establish his prestige and nurture many rising stars. These people were different from the old generals. These people were only loyal to him and not the old sect master. However, the strength of the great elders could not be underestimated. They had inherited many people who were loyal to the old sect master. These people were mostly veterans who had experienced hundreds of battles. When they killed, they were especially fierce. Chapter 543. Wu Junshan felt as if a knife was being twisted in his heart as he watched his fellow disciples fall into a pool of blood. Wu Junshan was furious and was about to charge into the battle, but Wu Junshan was one step ahead of her. His figure flashed and blended into the crowd. Bang! 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 Everywhere he passed, people were sent flying, and all of them fell to the ground far away. No one could stop his powerful attack. However, he didn't kill them. After all, they were his subordinates. "Elders, look at what you've done!" Wu Junshan roared. He was already in front of the first elder. The first elder hurriedly retreated, but there was no way he could escape. Wu Junshan drew a circle in the air with one hand and the first elder was enveloped by a vast power. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't escape the circle. Wu Junshan's palm was like thunder, hitting the first elder's chest. The first elder staggered back, but Wu Junshan quickly caught up and grabbed his arm. With a tug, the first elder bounced back and was about to fall into Wu Junshan's palm. Wu Junshan's series of attacks were as fast as lightning. Although the first elder was also a master, the difference between them was like heaven and earth. Seeing this, the second elder wanted to help, but it was too late. The people who followed Wu Junshan's orders were all excited. This was the real master of a sect. This aura, this method, no one in the sect could be his opponent. No matter what tricks they played, they couldn't withstand a single blow from this absolute power. However, some people weren't optimistic. Wu kept frowning as she looked at Granny Li. Suddenly, she saw a blur in front of her and Granny Li disappeared. In the next second, she appeared between the first elder and Wu Junshan. She tapped the air with her walking stick. There was nothing strange about it, as if it was an ordinary attack. However, the aura created by Wu Junshan collapsed, causing the first elder to heave a sigh of relief. Wu Junshan didn't retreat. Instead, he quickly followed. His 5 fingers had already locked the first elder's shoulder blade, preventing him from moving. Although the great elder was a martial scholar, he was still like a puppet in Wu Junshan's hands. He was in a very sorry state. Granny Li chuckled and pointed her crutch at Wu Junshan's wrist. This time, it was not pointed at the void but at Wu Junshan's wrist. It was so fast and accurate that it was impossible to dodge. Wu Junshan's expression changed, but he still didn't retreat. He let out a low roar and drew a circle in front of his chest with his other hand. The air vibrated, enveloping the incoming crutch. Boom! Chi energy flew out in all directions, as if they were blown away by a tornado. One after another, they staggered backwards. Those who were not strong enough even fell on their butts on the ground, looking extremely pathetic. Wu Junshan only saw a silhouette flash before his hands were empty. The great elder was actually snatched away by Granny Li. Granny Li quickly retreated and pulled away from Wu Junshan. Marshall's mind was greatly shaken. The sect master had always been an invincible figure in her heart, but in this exchange of blows, he had actually fallen into a disadvantageous position. This caused her to be extremely shocked. Biting her lips, she really wanted to go up and help the sect master. However, she knew that in a battle of this level, her cultivation was not even qualified to be a bystander. On the contrary, she would only add fuel to the fire. Wu Junshan's face was gloomy. There was not much change in his mind, but a storm had already set off in his heart. There seemed to be only a fine line between the 8th level and the 7th level of the Master Realm, but the real gap between the two sides was not to be underestimated. For example, this time, Granny Li had seized the initiative and seized the opportunity to snatch the Great Elder from him. Granny Li's smile disappeared. She said, "Sect Master Wu's martial arts are really powerful. However, with me here, it is indeed impossible for you to kill these 2 elders. Sect Master Li, do you really want to get involved in this matter? This will make the martial organization and Li Palace enemies, and they will fight to the death." Wu Junshan asked in a deep voice. The relationship between the Li Palace and the martial sect is not something that can be clearly explained in a few words, and they are certainly not the old enemies you speak of. As for the specifics, the elders that followed the old sect master for most of his life are the clearest. Although you are the successor chosen by the old sect master did not stop telling you the details. This is a test for you. Now it seems that you have not passed the old sect master's test, and your position as the sect master no longer exists. Granny Li said slowly. Ridiculous. How can an outsider like you be qualified to say such words? Wu roared in anger. Granny Li did not care and said, "It is useless for you to argue. The current situation is the best evidence. If you continue to fight, then the martial organization's 100 years of foundation will really be destroyed. Letting you people take charge of the martial organization is really destroying it," Wu retorted. Granny Li did not care and looked at the 2 elders. The 2 elders understood and said in a clear voice, "In the name of the elders, we announce that Wu Junshan has colluded with cultivators and violated the martial organization's sect master. He will be stripped of his position as the sect master, expelled from the martial organization, and killed on the spot. Everyone started whispering to each other. Many of them did not believe that the sect leader would collude with the cultivators. These martial organization people had been instilled with a viewpoint since they were young, and that was to eliminate the cultivators by the roots and not leave behind any future troubles. Many people who originally believed in Wu Junshan refuted loudly, "Nonsense, how could the sect master collude with cultivators? You are slandering him." "Is that so? Then why don't you ask him yourself and see if he is protecting that cultivator called Tangjing? Just what kind of unspeakable relationship does he have with the other?" The great elder said proudly. "Sect master, quickly say it. All of this is nonsense. There is no such thing." Immediately, everyone looked at the sect master excitedly, waiting for his answer. Wu Junshan's expression was normal, but he was speechless. Do you see? He has no way of answering. That means he is admitting it. This is the sect master that you all are protecting. If he is not betraying the martial organization, then what is he? The great elder struck while the iron was hot and said impatiently. The martial organization's rules were deeply ingrained in everyone's heart. Although they respected the sect master, they respected the martial organization's rules even more. Or they believed in the martial organization's rules. They were taught to kill cultivators since they were young. At this moment, they were suddenly told that the sect master that they respected was protecting cultivators and even colluding with them. This was simply the greatest blow to their faith, causing their confidence to sway. The great elder was very clear on this point, so he cleverly used this point. In an instant, many people who had pledged their allegiance to Wu Junshan began to waver. Of course, after all these years, Wu Junshan was not completely useless. There were still many people who believed him and angrily rebuked the great elder for spouting nonsense. Even if the sect master really did so, he had other intentions. He definitely did not betray the martial organization. The two elders' eyes flashed with pride. They looked at each other, then cupped their hands towards Grandma Li and said in a clear voice, "Palace Master Li, a traitor has appeared in the martial organization, and this traitor's cultivation is high. We know that we are not his opponent. Palace Master Li, as the old sect master's close friend, we beg you to help us clean up the sect." His words were powerful and impassioned. Many people chimed in, "Palace Master Li, please be righteous and help us clean up the sect. You are all crazy, shameless." Wu Junshan was so angry that he stomped his feet and cursed loudly. With Wu Junshan's style of doing things, she would never lose her composure like this, much less curse people like this. It could be seen how intense the anger in her heart was at this moment. Grandma Li nodded towards the two elders and smiled proudly. "Ha, I am indebted to the two elders and the old sect master's kindness. Then this old one will not refuse and help you." Finished speaking, she turned to look at Wu Junshan. "Sect Master Wu, no, you are no longer the sect master, you should be called Wu Junshan. You betrayed the martial organization, today I will help them clean up the sect." Wu Junshan sneered, "Ridiculous, Grandma Li, you are really powerful. I am afraid that in the future, there will no longer be a martial organization, but only the Li Palace." What he meant was that the Li Palace wanted to annex the martial organization. Grandma Li said, "That is wrong, the Li Palace and the martial organization are connected, of course they will coexist in this world. The relationship between the Li Palace and the martial organization is not something you can imagine. Maybe when you go underground, you can ask the old sect master for advice, and he will answer for you." Wu Junshan was even more puzzled. From beginning to end, the other party had said that the relationship between the martial organization and the Li Palace was not shallow, but Wu Junshan had never known this. Even when the old sect master was alive, the two organizations did not have much interaction, which made him puzzled. In addition, looking at the other party's confident manner, it was not a lie. which meant that there were many things between the martial organization and the Li Palace that he did not know. As the leader of a sect, he knew nothing about these things. This was definitely something that the old sect leader had deliberately concealed. Furthermore, the four elders had received the old sect leader's orders and kept him in the dark. This feeling of being deceived was extremely unpleasant. Moreover, because of the matter with Tang Jing, he had some complaints about the old sect master, but this feeling was always buried in the bottom of his heart. Now it seemed that the old sect master was far-sighted and seemed to have sensed his thoughts, so he had always been on guard against him. Thinking of this, Wu Junshan could not help but feel bored. In the first half of his life, he had almost sacrificed his son, but in exchange, he had been deceived and guarded. This made his heart turn cold, and he gradually lost hope in the martial organization. The hidden hatred for the old sect master grew stronger and stronger. It seems that you have many schemes that cannot be seen. Fine, since it is so, then I will not be the sect master. From now on, we will not interfere with each other's business. Wu Junshan said hatefully. The two elders were secretly delighted, their eyes shining with starlight. But many people advised, Sect Master, this is the enemy's scheme. You cannot fall into their trap. You are our Sect Master, forever our Sect Master. Wu also advised, Sect Master, please reconsider. I have made up my mind. Wu Junshan said firmly. During this period of time, he had been hiding his relationship with Tang Jing, but he had also been secretly working hard. He had ordered Wu to bring Tang Jing back to the martial organization at all costs, just to give his wife a surprise and make up for the mistakes of the past. Of course, he had misjudged the situation. That was, the elders were not sincere in their allegiance to him, but had other intentions. Chapter 544. Wu Junshan had already made up his mind. I have made up my mind. There is no need to persuade me. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. With that, he strode out of the door. Sovereign, I will go with you. Wu Junshan started to leave. Sounds of agreement could be heard from the crowd. Sovereign, we will follow you no matter where you go. In the end, 30 people followed behind Wu Junshan without hesitation. The two elders looked cold. They didn't expect so many people to follow Wu Junshan. They couldn't help but feel a little scared. If they let him run the sect for a few more years, maybe most people would listen to his orders. Then it would be impossible to remove him from the position of sovereign. Stop! Suddenly, the great elder shouted. Since you are no longer part of the martial organization, and you have colluded with cultivators, you are the enemies of the martial organization. The martial organization has never treated their enemies gently, but like a storm. Today, none of you will leave this place. Of course, the elders wouldn't let the tiger return to the mountain. They were very clear that with Wu Junshan's talent, his future was limitless. If they didn't kill him today, they would be in great danger in the future. These old men who had experienced countless storms were all vicious and merciless people. Their attitude was firm and decisive. They definitely wouldn't leave behind any future troubles. Wu Junshan and the others stopped and looked at each other in disbelief. You want to kill us all? Hasn't the martial organization always treated their enemies like this? The great elder asked. Equals, if you want to keep us here, we will have to see if you have the ability. Wu Junshan was not afraid at all. Ha, of course they can't keep you here. Do you think I have the ability? Granny Li stood up again with a smile on her face. There was no doubt that she had decided to get into this mess to the end. Wu Junshan said, Fine, I have always wanted to experience Grandma Li's skills. Today is a good opportunity. You guys go first, I will follow. No, we won't go. We will advance and retreat with the sovereign. Wu Junshan said loudly. The others nodded in agreement. The great elder sneered. Stop arguing. No one can leave. Since you are so loyal to him, of course you will follow him to the underworld. Do you really not care about the friendship between fellow disciples? Wu Junshan asked. The elder sneered. Clearly, he would not show the slightest bit of mercy. Everyone, I, Wu Junshan, am not worthy of your respect and love. Since that's the case, let's kill our way out and see who can stop us. Wu Junshan said vehemently. Kill our way out, kill our way out. The crowd was stirred up. Let's do it. Seeing that their morale was high, the elder didn't waste any more time lest anything unexpected happened. He gave the order with a loud shout. Kill! Their shouts shook the sky, as if they wanted to lift the roof. The crowd immediately started fighting again. A few people had just gotten close to Wu Junshan's body when they were sent flying. Wu Junshan had just wanted to charge and kill them. No matter how many enemies there were, they wouldn't be able to withstand a charge from an expert like him. But how could Granny Li let him do as he wished? She fiercely tapped the ground with her crutch and soared into the air, attacking Wu Junshan from mid-air. Wu Junshan looked up and drew 3 circles in front of his chest with his hands. A surge of inner strength surged out from the circles and met the crutch head-on. With a pop, it was like a sharp weapon had popped a bubble. The air shook in all directions, but the crutch continued to attack Wu Junshan like a hot knife through butter. Every move was a fierce killing move. Obviously, Granny Li didn't show any mercy. This was her style. Once she had decided on something, she would do it without hesitation. This matter was personally instructed by the High Lord, so of course she didn't dare to be negligent. The martial organization and Li Palace were the 2 chess pieces in the High Lord's hands. Now that one of the chess pieces was disobedient, she naturally had to ensure that this chess piece returned to the right path. For someone like Wu Junshan who disrupted the game, she would not show the slightest bit of mercy. The High Lord is really observant. He didn't miss a single detail and killed all the dangerous factors in the cradle. Granny Li was full of admiration. Only after fighting with Wu Junshan did she understand how powerful he was. In the future, she really would not be able to deal with him. Moreover, she believed that he had a better chance of breaking through to the Martial King realm in the future than she did. Leaving such a disaster alive would be a huge problem for her, Li Palace, and even the High Lord. Granny Li's eyes were filled with killing intent. With a low shout, the strength of the crutch in her hand increased by 30%. She was determined to kill Wu Junshan in one hit. Wu Junshan had nowhere to retreat. His hands continued to draw circles in front of his chest. This time, it wasn't just 1 circle, but 9 in the blink of an eye. The air rippled, forming circles that wrapped around the crutch's earth-shattering attack. Wu Junshan, your yin-yang harmony balance has reached such a level. You can draw 9 circles in one breath. You're almost as good as the old patriarch back then. You're really a martial arts genius. Unfortunately, you're still not as good as me. Granny Li's expression changed slightly. The crutch had already landed, breaking the first circle, and its strength was reduced by a portion. When the 9 circles were broken one by one, the crutch was only left with a portion of its strength when it was in front of Wu Junshan's chest. However, even with just a portion of its strength, its power was terrifying. The crutch hit Wu Junshan's chest. Poof! A pillar of blood spurted out. However, at this critical moment, Wu Junshan grabbed the crutch. The crutch had used up all its strength and could not move forward anymore. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of Wu Junshan's mouth, but his eyes were bright like the sun, so bright that it made people panic. Granny Li's heart skipped a beat. She had an ominous premonition, but she did not know where it came from. Wu Junshan opened his mouth and shouted, "Shadow, do it!" Swoosh! A sword light lit up on the ground without any warning. Once it lit up, it was like a scorching sun, so bright and blazing that people could not look at it directly. This sword light appeared behind Granny Lee, so it was impossible to guard against it. This crowded hall was filled with people. Everyone was surrounded by many people, so no one expected such a sword master to be hiding among them. Although Granny Lee didn't see this sword, she could judge the power of this sword just by feeling it. The person who made this move was definitely not an ordinary person. The key point was that the other party's whereabouts were mysterious and had escaped her detection, which was very terrifying. Her crutch was grabbed by Wu Junshan, so she had no weapon to block this sword. Moreover, it was too late. The attacker had calculated the timing and could not afford to make any mistakes. The only thing Granny Lee could do was to quickly circulate her martial arts and adjust her body slightly to avoid her vital parts. The sword that was supposed to be aimed at her heart missed by a few centimeters and went through her shoulder blade. Blood immediately flowed out from the sword. Poof! The long sword was immediately pulled out from her body, leaving behind a trail of blood. Granny Lee shouted. She took a deep breath and regained her strength. Her arm shook and the crutch shook violently, breaking free from Wu Junshan's hand. Wu Junshan took a step back and did not follow up with another attack. After the opponent regained her strength, it would not be so easy to attack again. Moreover, that sword had taken advantage of the right time and place. It could not be used again. Although it could not kill the opponent, it had injured her, which was very rare. It was very difficult for an expert like Granny Lee to injure her. Granny Lee quickly turned around, but she didn't see the person who hurt her. Even the sword had disappeared without a trace. Moreover, there were so many people in the crowd who were using swords. How could she tell who was the real attacker? The two elders were also shocked by this scene. Even they didn't see the person who made the move. They only saw the resplendent sword light, and then the sword light disappeared as if it had never appeared. How could there be such a sword master in the crowd? As elders of the martial arts sect, how could they know nothing about this? Almost everyone immediately turned their attention to Wu Junshan. Although he had taken a blow to the chest and his clothes were dyed red with blood, he still looked dignified and imposing. Moreover, from the calm expression on his face, he was still confident and powerful. Where did this confidence come from? It was probably due to the shadow he had just shouted. Who was the shadow? How could there be a shadow in the martial arts sect? The shadow had mixed in with the crowd. Everyone subconsciously stopped fighting and looked at each other. Anyone could be the shadow. Granny Lee stopped the bleeding and asked in surprise, "Is the shadow someone you secretly cultivated?" Wu Junshan smiled but did not say anything. Amazing. It seems that you even fooled the old sect leader. You are really good at hiding things. Granny Lee clicked her tongue in admiration. She couldn't help but admire Wu Junshan. Not only was his cultivation high, but his shrewdness was also unfathomable. The shadow that he had secretly cultivated was definitely a master-level expert. How old was Wu Junshan to have cultivated such a shadow expert? Then, how early did he carry out this plan? The key was that he had fooled everyone, including the martial arts sect people who had been with him day and night. This was not easy to do. Granny Lee could not help but feel a chill. If this kind of person was released, there would be endless trouble in the future. But she knew that with the threat of the shadow, unless she risked her life, there was no way she could stop Wu Junshan. Wu Junshan's plan was flawless, so he was not afraid. Wu Junshan, it turns out that you have been disloyal for a long time. You really hid it well. The first elder complained in fear. He realized that he had underestimated the opponent. If he did not report this to the sect leader and invite Granny Lee, he would really fail miserably. But now, although he had not failed, this plan was equivalent to failure. He and Granny Lee had the same idea. The threat of the invisible shadow was enough to make them hesitate. Only those who had sworn to follow Wu Junshan to their deaths were inspired. They thought that they would definitely die, but now it seemed that there was a turning point. Of course, many people looked around, trying to find the mysterious shadow. But where was the shadow? Chapter 545. Wu Junshan faced Granny Lee and the others, his gaze as sharp as a knife. With a heavy snort, he walked out in large strides without fear. Granny Lee's eyes fluctuated as she struggled with her heart, but in the end, she remained indifferent. The others did not dare to act rashly and could only watch as they left. The Great Elder anxiously said, "Palace Master Lee, you can't let them go." Granny Lee remained expressionless and did not move. The Great Elder was stunned, knowing that persuasion was useless. With just the few of them, wanting to stop Wu Junshan was tantamount to a fool's dream. Granny Lee's pair of small eyes gradually narrowed into slits as she stared at the people walking out one by one, as if trying to distinguish who the mysterious shadow was. However, even when everyone left the hall, she did not notice anything strange. Thinking about it, it was reasonable. Since this shadow had been hiding in the martial sect for such a long time, even keeping the old sect leader and a few elders in the dark, he must be extremely careful. It was easier said than done to catch him. Seeing the group disappear, the two elders heavily pounded the wall and unwillingly vented. Letting them go like this is the same as letting a tiger return to the mountain. Granny Lee gently glanced at them and said, "Wu Junshan has been in the martial organization for so many years, but none of you noticed. That's why he could safely leave without fear." The two were immediately speechless and could not help but feel ashamed. "We have let the old sect master down. But what should we do next? Since he is so protective of that Tangjing, let's first find out what their relationship is." Granny Lee hit the nail on the head. The two looked at each other in dismay, unable to figure out the relationship between the two. They hung their heads dejectedly like defeated soldiers. Wu Junshan led a group of people and quickly left the martial organization, only stopping when they were more than 100 li away. Everyone looked at Wu Junshan. After so many years, these people had long regarded the martial organization as their home. Now that their home was gone, where should they go? Wu Yi looked at Wu Junshan with worry and asked, "Sect Master, what should we do next?" Wu Junshan said, "From now on, don't call me Sect Master, because I am no longer the Sect Master of the martial sect." Everyone's expression changed. Although they had left the martial sect, these people still treated him as the sect leader. Thus, someone hurriedly advised, "Sect leader, you must not. You will always be our sect leader. Although you have left the martial sect, we can establish another martial sect. We will follow you forever. We must make the new martial sect bigger and stronger, and suppress the original martial sect." Wu Junshan waved his hand and signaled for everyone to be quiet. He said firmly, "I will not turn back. Since I have nothing to do with the martial sect, I will not establish a new martial sect. Then we can establish other organizations. As long as the sect leader is here, we can work together. We can definitely achieve something." Everyone hurriedly advised. Wu Yi hurriedly nodded. Obviously, she also thought so. She did not think that such a small setback would defeat him. He would definitely regain his glory and let his enemies know what fear was and what regret was. Wu Junshan's expression was resolute as he made up his mind, "There is no point in saying more. I am very grateful that you all left the martial organization with me. It has been hard on you all these years. From now on, you are free. Without the martial organization's restrictions, you can all swim freely in the vast sea and fly freely in the sky. With your abilities, you will definitely be able to make a name for yourself in this world. Wu Junshan never worried about the livelihood of his subordinates. These people all had their own abilities and would not be at a disadvantage no matter where they went. In the future, they might even become a tyrant of a region. However, these people did not think so. Wu Junshan was their backbone. Without him, they would be like a sheet of loose sand. They would be like wandering ghosts without a master. No matter how many opportunities there were, they would not take a second look. Therefore, although Wu Junshan had only been in charge of the martial organization for a few years, his methods of controlling his subordinates were indeed very powerful. He could make his subordinates believe in him wholeheartedly and not use some benefits to rope them in. This was one of the rarest qualities of a leader. Previously, these people could bravely kill their enemies without batting an eyelid. However, after listening to Wu Junshan's arrangements, many of them revealed looks of fear and their eyes began to turn red. Putong. Someone knelt down in front of Wu Junshan, and then more and more people knelt down in front of him, sincerely persuading him, "Sect leader, I beg you to take back the order just now, and lead us back to our former glory. Let those shameless people see how powerful sect leader is, and see how great of a loss Wuzong will suffer without sect leader." Rows of 9-foot-tall men knelt down in front of Wu Junshan, crying. This scene was very touching. Even Wu Junshan could not help but be moved. Seeing Wu Junshan's hesitant expression, Wu Junshan's legs went soft and he knelt heavily on the ground. The stone floor under his knees cracked in half. He then heard Wu Junshan say with great emotion, "Sect leader, please lead us to kill the enemies. Let us follow you until death." Wu Junshan's eyes also turned red. Humans were not plants. How could they be emotionless? Although Wu Junshan had cultivated the habit of being indifferent, seeing this group of sincere people, how could he not be moved? He was silent for a long time. One by one, he helped the kneeling people up and said, "Wu Junshan, am not worthy enough to make you so loyal. Good, since you have entrusted your lives to me, I, Wu Junshan, will not let you down. We swear to rise again and fight in the Jianghu." The crowd was moved. Many people were so excited that they were trembling. Their eyes were shining with passion. Although some were injured, their bodies were filled with endless energy. If they were allowed to continue fighting, they would not hesitate to charge into the battlefield. "Then where are we going now?" Wu Junshan said, "We have our own place. Wu, come with me. I have something for you to do." The two walked to the side. Wu Junshan took out a package and handed it to her. "Wu, I want you to go to Ordinary Balance and give these things to Tang Zheng." "What is this?" Wu Junshan looked at it curiously. It was the battle spirit sword and 2 sun shooting arrows. These were the weapons that fell into Wu Junshan's hands in the 10,000 huge mountains. This time, it was time to return them to their rightful owners. "Sect leader, are you not going? Since we have left the martial organization, you and I will call each other master and disciple. Moreover, you are also my disciple." "Yes, master. I want to bring this group of people to a safe place. I don't have time to go to Ordinary Balance. Also, if I go to Ordinary Balance again, it will be too obvious. It will be easier for Tang Zheng's identity to be exposed." Wu Junshan said worriedly. Wu hesitated for a moment and said, "Master, Tang Zheng and his grandfather have depended on each other for so many years, so he has a lot of resentment towards you and mistress." Wu Junshan revealed a lonely smile and said, "It's just a little resentment. What does it matter? This is human nature. No matter who it is, they will not be able to immediately turn around in this situation. If he sees Master being so open-minded, I'm afraid he will change his mind." Wu said thoughtfully. Wu Junshan shook his head. His attitude is of no concern for the time being. The only thing we need to do is ensure that his identity is not exposed. If his identity is discovered by the Li Palace and the two elders, he will be in great danger. Wu nodded as if he understood. Therefore, when you go to ordinary balance, you must persuade your mistress to leave immediately. At this time, only by staying far away from Tang Zheng will he be safer. Wu Junshan warned. Will mistress listen to me? Wu said worriedly. She understood her master's feelings very well. Seeing her meticulous attitude towards Tang Zheng, how could she bear to leave and endure the pain of separation? Your mistress is deeply righteous. He will understand my good intentions. You can just say it. Yes, disciple understands. However, after your mistress leaves, you can stay by Tang Zheng's side. Your goal is much smaller than hers. Moreover, you have been with him for a long time, so others will not be too suspicious. When Wu heard this, he immediately objected, Master, at this time, I can only play a greater role by your side. Moreover, you are in need of people right now. But before she could finish, Wu Junshan waved his hand and interrupted her. Wu Junshan looked at her seriously and said, Wu, you can only play a greater role by staying by Tang Zheng's side. Do you remember when Tang Zheng was unconscious in the 10,000 huge mountains? Martial heartstrings trembled. That was her first time, how could she forget? At that time, it was because of the eruption of pure yang energy that he became in that situation. His body is very special, and who knows when the pure yang energy will erupt, so you have to stay by his side and save his life at this time. Wu Junshan warned. A hint of shyness flashed across Wu's face, but he quickly covered it up and asked nervously, Do you really want to do this? Wu Junshan nodded. Marshal, perhaps this is not fair to you. Wu hurriedly shook his head. No, it was Master who adopted me and taught me martial arts, allowing me to have so many things. This is something I should do. Then I'll leave it to you. Master, you're exaggerating. Where can I find Master after mistress leaves? When the time comes, I'll naturally contact her. You don't have to worry. You'll be the only one on this journey, so you have to be careful. Right now, the martial organization and the Li Palace are both our enemies. There's danger everywhere. In addition, I suspect that there's an even stronger person behind them. I don't know the origins of these people, but without a doubt, they're definitely not simple. Wu Junshan was a smart person. He had already thought of this point from the clues, so he didn't forget to warn her seriously. Wu was stunned for a moment. She never thought that there would be such a thing. Seeing her master so serious, she also nodded solemnly to show that she understood. However, she still had an unanswered question in her heart. Who exactly was that shadow? Was it among these people? She really wanted to ask, but when the words reached her mouth, she swallowed them back down. This was one of her master's most confidential matters. When it was time for her to know, her master would naturally tell her. Chapter 546. On New Year's Eve, the lanterns were lit, and the lights of thousands of families were incomparably brilliant. From time to time, fireworks would explode in the sky, blooming with gorgeous flowers. Fortunately, although Tang Zheng's house was 2 bedrooms, it was not small, so it did not seem crowded with so many people. The New Year's Eve dinner had already been finished, and the few of them sat together and chatted while watching the Spring Festival Gala. Nana was everyone's happy fruit. She held a few big red packets in her hands, and her pink face was flushed red. It was especially festive and cute. Lan Yu's face was full of smiles. This was the happiest New Year's Eve she had ever had in so many years. Seeing her son's happy expression, her entire heart was about to melt. Mu Hongyan did not know the relationship between Tang Zheng and Lan Yu, but as a mother, she had already guessed some clues from the way Lan Yu looked at Tang Zheng. She could not help but be curious. From Lan Yu's words and actions, it could be seen that her identity was definitely not ordinary. Tang Jing had such a powerful background, why would he become an abandoned child? However, Mu Hongyan knew what was proper. If others did not say anything, she would not ask. As for the first year that she had not spent in the Long family, her feelings were especially fresh. Although the New Year's Eve in the Long family was even more extravagant, with all kinds of delicacies filling the table and many servants serving them, she did not feel the feeling of many years. Especially after her husband died, Long Tingyu pestered her endlessly. Every New Year's Eve was like torture to face him face to face. His gaze was as if he wanted to strip her bare, causing her to feel uncomfortable all over. This time, the atmosphere of this small family was what she looked forward to the most, and what she missed the most. She was born in a well-off family. However, her parents died in a car accident when she was an adult, and she became a lonely person. Every new year was like torture. She originally thought that it would be better after marriage, but she did not expect that the atmosphere of the big family would not interest her. At this moment, seeing her daughter's carefree and happy appearance, she felt that her life was truly complete. In the past, she would complain that the heavens were unfair to her, but now, she did not complain, because the appearance of a person had completely changed her life. Looking at Tang Zhang's increasingly mature face, her thoughts became complicated. Suddenly, Linger pointed at the fireworks in the sky and said excitedly, "Master, look at the fireworks in the sky. It's so beautiful. Those are called fireworks." Fireworks. Can a cigarette turn into a flower? Ling could not figure out the logic behind it. Tang Zheng had an idea and said, "I'll take you downstairs to play. There's something for sale downstairs." When Nana heard this, she jumped off the sofa excitedly and hugged Tang Zheng's leg. She said in a childish voice, "Big brother, Nana wants to set off fireworks too." Good, let's go down together. I'll bring them down to play for a while. Be careful and come back early. Tang Dehai urged. The few of them quickly went downstairs. There were many people playing downstairs, but fireworks were not allowed in the city, so most of the people were holding small toys. Tang Jing did not care about this problem. He bought dozens of fireworks, then hugged Nana and held Linger and said, "Let's go to the suburbs to set off fireworks." As soon as they finished speaking, they rushed out like a gust of wind. Under the cover of the night, the three of them passed through the streets and came to the suburbs. Then, they set off fireworks to their heart's content. Ding ling ling. Suddenly, his cell phone rang. Someone was calling. Tang Jing, Happy New Year. Yi Dingdong's familiar voice came from the other end of the phone. Happy New Year. Are you okay now? Yi Dingdang asked. In this period of time, there were many rumors about Tang Jing, especially the conflict with the dragon group. How could it be hidden from these big families? The Ye family's reaction was not small. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang were both affected, because their relationship with Tang Jing was not shallow, so Yi Xuanji warned them not to contact Tang Jing, and not to have anything to do with him again. Yi Xuanji understood very well that the dragon group was extremely powerful and represented the government's will. Nothing good would come out of going against the dragon group. The official background of the Ye family was not strong to begin with. If they went against the dragon group, they would probably suffer a calamity. Yi Xuanji was not as rich and overbearing as Yan Potian, who dared not to sell face to the dragon group. In fact, Yi Xuanji had also heard that the dragon group and the Song and Chu families seemed to be in secret contact. How could Yi Xuanji not know what these two families were planning? If they were given an excuse at this time, they would definitely use the hands of the fake dragon group to deal with the Ye family. Ever since the Chu family's patriarch died at the hands of Tang Jing, the Chu family had obviously firmly attached themselves to the Song family. This way, the Song family's strength would catch up to the Yan family and completely surpass the Ye family, causing Yi Xuanji to feel endless pressure. Now that they had hooked up with the dragon group, it was like adding wings to a tiger. The Ya family's living space was even narrower. Yi Xuanji couldn't help but regret his tacit approval of the relationship between Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang. Although he had already firmly separated the relationship between the Ya family and Tang Jing, in the eyes of those who wanted to know, they were still inextricably linked. At this critical moment, of course, he couldn't cause trouble, so he strictly forced Yi Tianlei and his wife to cut off contact with Tang Jing. In addition, he was very clear about his granddaughter's thoughts, so he had been locking her at home these days and even took away her phone, making it impossible for her to contact Tang Jing. But everything can't go as one wishes. Feng Xinyang was too clear about his daughter's thoughts, so he took advantage of the New Year's Eve and secretly gave a phone to his daughter, letting her contact Tang Jing to relieve the pain of lovesickness. "I'm fine. What about you? You lied to me. So many things have happened to you, and you still dare to say that you're fine." Yi Dingdang's little universe exploded. "Do you know how dangerous it is? When I heard about the things you did, my heart almost jumped out of my throat." Tang Zheng was startled. Yi Dingdang's reaction was really beyond his expectations. Although she was sometimes unruly and a little violent, most of the time she was very calm. Why was she so abnormal this time? However, listening to her heartfelt words, a warm current flowed through Tang Zheng's heart. The feeling of being cared for was really good. "Don't be angry. Haven't I already solved those things? It's easy to get old if you get angry. Don't be angry." Tang Zheng hurriedly tried to persuade her. "Humph, you think I'm old now, right?" Yi Dingdang coquettishly said. "I don't dare." "You said you don't dare, not know. That is to say, that's what you think in your heart, right?" Yi Dingdang's voice rose a bit, as if she was about to flip out. Tang Zheng was endlessly depressed. Why does this woman have the potential to be a detective? She's so good at biting words. Of course, as a person who has already touched the threshold of a relationship, he did not hesitate to answer, "Of course not. In my heart, you will always be 18 years old. It's just like when I first saw you when I first walked into the classroom." "Humph, that's more like it. I'll consider you a pass." Tang Zheng let out a sigh of relief. When talking to a woman, there could be traps everywhere. It was dangerous and dangerous. It was even more careful than when fighting. "You've caused such a big disturbance. My family already forbade me from contacting you. I'm secretly calling you," Yi Dingdang said, feeling wronged. This wasn't out of his expectations. With Yi Xuanji's style, this was within his expectations. "Then I'll have to trouble you. Of course it's hard. It's such a cold day and I'm hiding outside to call you. My hands are almost frozen. What if they don't let me see you when school starts?" Yi Dingdang asked worriedly. Tang Zheng said unconcernedly, "At that time, they couldn't have been watching you all the time, right? We had plenty of chances. Moreover, even if someone was watching, I would have knocked him out. I definitely can't be merciful to this kind of bad guy." When Yi Dingdang heard this, she burst out laughing. After a while, she said, "Let me tell you something. I heard that the dragon group is colluding with the Song and Chu families. It's definitely not a good thing, so you must be careful." Tang Zheng was awestruck. He sneered in his heart, "These two families are really haunting me. Fine, tomorrow is the first day of the new year, and there's a new atmosphere for the new year. Then I'll take your Song family's ordinary balance villa as an example and give you a big New Year's gift." "Did you hear what I said?" Yi Dingdang hurriedly asked when she saw that he was silent. "Oh, I heard. You can rest assured that I will give the Song family a big gift. It will definitely be a big surprise," Tang Zheng said with an evil smile. Yi Dingdang excitedly asked, "What big gift?" You'll know when the time comes. Yi Ding Dang still wanted to ask, but she saw that someone had come. Thus, she hurriedly said a few words and then hurriedly hung up the phone. Linger and Nana were having a lot of fun. In the end, they finished setting off all the fireworks they bought. He then took the two back the way they came. Nana excitedly giggled. When they got home, the little girl eagerly asked, "Brother, can Nana learn martial arts? In the future, Nana can walk as fast as you. Then Nana can often set off fireworks by herself." Tang Zheng was moved. He had promised Mu Hongyan to teach Nana the cultivation method for a long time, but he never had the time to put it into practice. Moreover, he never found a suitable cultivation method. "Why don't you practice the cloud water technique or the divine dragon technique?" The cloud water technique was practiced by Fang Shishir, and the divine dragon technique was practiced by Lu Qingmei. Perhaps he subconsciously didn't want someone close to him to practice the same cultivation method. Moreover, Nana was still young and had enough time to practice a set of cultivation methods. He wanted to find a cultivation method that was more suitable for her. He suddenly had an idea. Now, these cultivation methods were all pieced together by me. If there was a complete set of cultivation methods from a certain sect, it would definitely be very beneficial for them. However, when these things were expelled with the cultivators, he didn't know where they fell. It was also possible that most of them were taken away. How could it be so easy to find them? Chapter 547. Tang Zheng looked at Gue Qiansui in surprise and asked, "Do you know where it is?" Langya Pavilion. There are many cultivation methods collected by the Dragon Clan from all over the world. After the Dragon Clan left, no one cared about Langya Pavilion. Gue Qiansui said. Langya Pavilion. Tang Zheng heard the name for the first time, and it was related to the Dragon Clan. He was very curious. "How do you know about it?" "My ancestor was an important minister of the Dragon Clan. He served the Dragon Clan for thousands of years. Naturally, he knew about it. When I was young, I heard about it from the elders." Gue Qiansui said proudly. Tang Zheng was surprised. He did not expect this old turtle to be a descendant of a famous family. "Then where is Langya Pavilion?" Gue Qiansui lowered his head and said, "I am ashamed. This is an important place of the Dragon Clan. Ordinary people do not know about it." "Is it in the Dragon Palace?" Gue Qiansui shook his head firmly, "Absolutely not. I have lived in the Dragon Palace for so many years. If Langya Pavilion was in the Dragon Palace, it would have been discovered long ago. In fact, although we demon beasts have a long lifespan, if we don't practice the cultivation method, it will only increase our lifespan. It will not help us at all. It is said that there are thousands of cultivation methods in Langya Pavilion. Almost everyone can find the cultivation method that suits them." Gue Qiansui's tone was quite excited. Obviously, he was very eager to find Langya Pavilion. The Dragon Clan has left. Is Langya Pavilion still in this world? Tang Zheng asked suspiciously. Gue Qiansui nodded, "Definitely, because Langya Pavilion is a paradise in this world. It can't leave with the Dragon Clan." Suddenly, Tang Zheng's heart was eager. If he could find Langya Pavilion, it would solve his urgent need. Everyone around him could find suitable cultivation methods to practice. It was simply the rhythm of establishing a sect. Unfortunately, only the Dragon Clan knows the location of Langya Pavilion. There is no Dragon Clan in this world. It is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Gue Qiansui said regretfully. Tang Zheng's mouth gradually curled up. Who said there was no Dragon Clan in this world? Wasn't the five-clawed golden dragon under the Palace Dragon Clan? It was just that no one else knew of its existence. He could not wait to return to the capital city and ask the five-clawed golden dragon. On the first day of the new year, there was a new atmosphere for the new year. Tang Jing took his grandfather and Ling Er to tour the city for most of the day. They went to the temple fair and enjoyed the lanterns. His grandfather was grinning from ear to ear. In the evening, after sending the two home, Tang Jing secretly met up with Lin Hu and Fire Phoenix. Unexpectedly, Feng Yong also came to join in on the fun. This kid was bored at home during the new year, so he came to find Tang Jing to play. At that time, it was Feng Yong who had brought Tang Jing to the ordinary balance courtyard. Since this brat had nothing to do, then he would bring him to the ordinary balance courtyard to broaden his horizons. When Feng Yong heard that they were going to the ordinary balance courtyard, his eyes lit up. He groped his body for a while and said excitedly, "Boss, this is my bank card. In the past 6 months, I have saved a lot of money. Boss, you can show your invincible might again. Show off your god of gambler style and win everything they have." Tang Jing was moved and said cheerfully, "Okay, this time I won't just win a few million. I really want to win everything they have and win back the entire courtyard." Feng Yong asked incredulously, "Really?" "Of course." Tang Jing nodded solemnly. Feng Yong looked at Tang Jing for a few seconds and cheered. He was not afraid, but excited. It seemed that after following Tang Jing for so long, his character had gradually become fearless. The few of them drove and before long, they arrived at the ordinary balance courtyard. There were already many luxury cars parked in the parking lot. It seemed that today many of the rich people of the ordinary balance courtyard were gathered here. The ordinary balance courtyard was not a place that just anyone could enter. Fortunately, Feng Yong's father was there. His father often came to the ordinary balance courtyard to relax or discuss business. He was a frequent visitor. Therefore, under the guidance of the guards, they were able to smoothly sneak in. The ordinary balance courtyard had a group of guards. These people were courageous and powerful. Moreover, they had received special training from the Song family. Among them, there was no lack of martial artists. However, these martial artists could frighten ordinary people, but in the eyes of Tang Jing, they were like 3-year-old children, unable to withstand a single blow. Feng Yong dragged Tang Jing straight to the casino. The hall was brightly lit and many people had already gathered. All kinds of gambling tables were filled with people. Some people who had won money were laughing wildly, while others who had lost money were cursing in a low voice. "Boss, this time let's learn from the movies and play 5-card stud. How about it? This is exciting enough." Feng Yong excitedly suggested. "Up to you. Anything is fine." Tang Jing did not mind. Feng Yong received the order and immediately pushed a person off the gambling table. He shouted, make way, the god of gambling has arrived. Ordinary people, go play to the side." Immediately, the people at the table uniformly turned their heads to look at the 4 people. Especially Feng Yong's unbridled and arrogant appearance, which made many people frown. Tang Jing did not stop him. He was happy to let him show off his power. Today, they were here to cause trouble. What do you mean by cause trouble? Of course, they were here to cause trouble. Tang Jing could not help but like this kind of unbridled feeling. It was really King cool. Hang, a few brats also dared to play 5-card stud. Don't lose so much that you don't even have your underwear left. It's better if you obediently go back and drink your milk. A Baldy unhappily ridiculed. Feng Yong raised his head and fearlessly stared at the other party and said, "Then let's see who will lose their underwear." Finished speaking, he placed his chips on the gambling table. 500,000. This was all of Feng Yong's wealth. Lin Hu and Fire Phoenix were like 2 bodyguards. They stood behind the 2 of them without saying a word. They knew what Tang Jing wanted to do. Regarding his decision, they raised both hands in approval. Taking down the ordinary balance courtyard in one fell swoop was a good start. This was something they were happy to see. "Boss, come sit. Let them see what is called the god of gambling," Feng Yong said as he pushed Tang Jing to the seat. The other people looked at Tang Jing with eyes full of disdain. They clearly did not recognize him as the god of gambling. The dealer also glanced at Tang Jing but did not take him seriously. He thought he was some prodigal son of a rich family. He sneered in his heart. The casino welcomed this kind of spendthrift. 5-card stud was 5 cards given to each person. One of the cards was the bottom card. Only they could see the other 4 cards. Whoever had the biggest card in the end would be the winner. The dealer dealt the cards. Everyone had a bottom card. Then the second round of cards was dealt. Tang Zhang's face card was a 10 of clubs. The baldy received an ace of spades. The bigger card would speak. The baldy directly bet 100,000. He disdainfully smiled at Tang Zhang and said, "Brat, the ace is 10 times bigger than yours. Do you dare to follow?" Tang Zhang smiled but did not say anything. He gave Feng Yong a meaningful glance. Feng Yong understood tacitly and happily said, "What do you mean I don't dare to follow?" 100,000, follow. The others also followed. For the third card, Tang Jing received a 6 of clubs. The baldy received an ace of hearts. 1 red and 1 black. The 2 aces were particularly eye-catching. Looks like I'm really lucky on the first day of the new year. A pair of aces. If I don't raise now, when will I? 200,000. The baldy laughed and pushed the chips in front of him for another 200,000. Some people carefully looked at their bottom cards. Some people folded. There were only 4 people left at the table. Tang Jing had a 10 and a 6, but he still did not fold. He firmly followed with a bet of 200,000. Many people shook their heads. They thought to themselves that this was definitely a prodigal son. If he followed with such bad cards, wouldn't he be giving money to others? From the beginning to the end, Tang Jing did not look at his bottom cards. It was as if he was really a fool who came to give money away. The dealer dealt the 4th card. The baldy received a king of clubs, while Tang Jing received an 8 of clubs. His cards were 10, 6, and 8 of clubs. The others' cards were bigger than his. Some had a pair, while the baldy had a pair of aces and a king. He was in the lead. The baldy's eyes lit up and he laughed, "The heavens are really helping me. Kid, do you still dare to follow?" "Why not?" "Okay, you have guts. 500,000. You don't have that many chips in front of you, right?" The baldy said disdainfully. Tang Jing did not mind. He gave Lin Hu a look. He immediately went to exchange chips and came back with 10 million in chips. Immediately, those who did not think highly of Tang Jing shook their heads. This was not an ordinary prodigal son, but a fighter jet among prodigals. Feng Yong saw that he played big and whispered, "Boss, there are so many chips. Let's look at our bottom cards." Tang Jing shook his head and said, "I know what to do." Feng Yong's eyes lit up. He also knew what to do. He looked at the baldy with a mocking expression and said, "My boss is the god of gambling. What is there to be afraid of? I'll follow." Ignorant kid. Today, this grandpa will teach you a lesson. Deal the cards. The baldy urged. The others also folded their cards. In the end, only Tang Jing and the baldy were left at the table. The dealer dealt the cards. The baldy received a king. The cards were double aces and double kings. These were 2 big pairs and could not be considered small. On the other hand, Tang Jing received an 8 of clubs. The cards were 6, 7, 8, and 10 of clubs. It still looked small unless his bottom card was a 9 of clubs. However, he did not even look at his bottom card. No one believed that his luck would be so heaven-defying that he would be able to get a 9 of clubs. The Baldy's big flat face was about to turn into a chrysanthemum. His eyes were wide open as he looked at Tang Zheng and said, "I'll bet another $1,000,000. Do you dare follow?" Tang Zheng pushed his hands forward. All the chips were pushed to the center of the table. He said without fear, 5-card stud. "Do you dare?" The Baldy was startled. He looked at Tang Zheng's bottom card in bewilderment. It was as if he wanted to see through the cards and see through them. Seeing that Tang Zheng was so confident, the others were also bewildered. Could it be that he really had a 9 of clubs? Otherwise, even a fool would know that he would lose this round. But didn't he not look at his bottom card? The Baldy's face gradually turned red and said, "Why wouldn't I dare? 5-card stud. I have 3 aces and a pair of kings. Let's see how you can beat me." "Ha, why are you so confident? You really don't know life from death." Tang Zheng shook his head. He gently grabbed his bottom card and threw it on the table. It was a 9 of clubs, a straight flush. "Wow!" Suddenly, the crowd cried out in surprise. The Baldy's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Feng Yong excitedly shouted, "I told you, my boss is the god of gambling." "Humph, you didn't believe me. Now you see how powerful he is." Chapter 548. Swindler. These 2 words were extremely harsh to the ears in the casino. Hearing the Baldy's clamor, the other people's faces became gloomy. Gambling with a swindler, wasn't that the same as giving money to the other side? Many people were indignant. No wonder he was so calm and composed. He didn't even look at his cards and dared to place bets. It was as if he had seen through his cards. This kind of godly gambling technique was too similar to a swindler. So he is a swindler. No wonder he is so powerful. No, we must make him spit out the money he won. This brat's guts are really big. He dares to cheat in the ordinary balance courtyard. Does he not want his hands anymore? Everyone was discussing spiritedly. Many people surrounded them. They wanted to see what this unbridled fellow looked like. Most of them were rich people in the ordinary balance courtyard. No one recognized Tang Zheng. But there were people who recognized Lin Hu and Fire Phoenix. After all, these 2 were local tyrants. Although they had retired from Jianghu, they were still imprinted in many people's minds. Who is this brat? He actually dares to sit so casually and let Lin Hu and Fire Phoenix stand like 2 followers? Some people were incomparably shocked. They sized up Tang Zheng as if they wanted to see through his origin. The Baldy clearly didn't recognize Tang Zheng's group. He angrily stammered and shouted, "Don't let them go. They cheated people. Kill them or cripple them." With this shout, several guards walked over. They looked at Tang Zheng's group of 4 with unkind eyes. They fiercely said, "You cheated." Feng Yong immediately exploded. He shouted, "Which eye of yours saw us cheated? Let me tell you, my boss is the god of gambling. He is not a cheater. If you can't afford to play, then don't play. You are making a fool of yourself." Saying this, he disdainfully glanced at the Baldy. The Baldy could also be considered a successful person. When had he ever been looked down upon by 2 brats? He immediately flew into a rage and said, "If we didn't cheat, how could we win?" Feng Yong still wanted to refute, but Tang Zheng waved his hand, indicating him to calm down. He looked at the Baldy with ridicule and said, "To win against you is very simple. Moreover, you keep saying that I cheated. Which eye of yours saw it?" "I." Baldy was speechless. It wasn't just him. No one in the room had seen Tang Jing cheat. He had only touched his trump card at the last moment when the cards were revealed. Therefore, the chances of him cheating were very slim. How did Tang Jing do all this? Of course, it was the effect of the illusion. As long as he used the illusion, these cards could appear as he wanted others to see them. In other words, he could change the cards in his hand into any card he wanted in the eyes of others. This was simply a heaven-defying cheat. No one could win against him. Today, Tang Jing was here to kick up a fuss, not to gamble, so of course he wouldn't follow the rules. If the ordinary balance courtyard slandered a guest for cheating, then the name of the ordinary balance courtyard should be removed. Tang Jing said in a bad mood. Several of the guards' hearts trembled. They couldn't bear this kind of responsibility. They hurriedly sent someone to inform the others and let an expert come out. Tang Jing calmly sat on the fishing platform. He pointed at the pile of chips on the table and said to Feng Yong, "Bring them over." Feng Yong was radiant with joy as he took over the chips. He thought to himself that this was really King satisfying. He had won several million in one go and had made these people lose their courage. Baldy still wanted to stop him but was pushed aside by Feng Yong. Feng Yong was no longer the same as before. He was a martial artist. Among ordinary people, he could be considered a powerful character. Therefore, how could Baldy be his opponent? Baldy felt a strong force coming at him. He staggered back and sat down on the ground. The others were shocked and quickly scattered to avoid him. Feng Yong disdainfully glared at Baldy and said, "I just said that my boss would beat you until you didn't even have your underwear. You didn't believe me. Now are you dumbfounded?" Baldy was flustered and exasperated as he crawled up and hid behind a guard. He put on a strong front and said, "You dare hit me? I definitely won't let you off. As for your ordinary balance courtyard, you connived with a swindler. Could it be that you really want to ruin your own reputation?" "Hang, how could the ordinary balance courtyard's reputation be ruined by a few brats? Since it's the gambling god, then I'll bet with you." A person walked out with a majestic gait. This person was an old man. His eyes were bright and full of expression. His gaze was sharp. "Wah, Ghost Hand has made his move. This brat is going to be in big trouble." The crowd began to whisper. "I've long since heard of Ghost Hand's strength. It's just that I've never had the chance to see it. I've heard that a swindler came to the ordinary balance courtyard to gamble. In the end, Ghost Hand completely defeated him. Moreover, he was caught cheating and had his hands cut off. That's right. Ghost Hand's name isn't for nothing. Ghost Hand's moves are like lightning. He's so fast that he doesn't even leave a shadow. No one can see him clearly. But this brat is also very strange. His gambling skills aren't bad either. Maybe there really will be something to see. Hey, to have such a wonderful show on the first day of the new year, this trip really wasn't made in vain." Hearing this discussion, Tang Jing also sized up Ghost Hand. Apart from being more hale and hearty than an ordinary old man, there wasn't much of a difference. It made people doubt the authenticity of his words. But Tang Jing wasn't worried. Even if the other party was a gambling expert, he still wouldn't be able to do anything to Tang Jing. Illusions were much more profound than gambling. "You want to bet with me?" Tang Jing looked at the other party with interest. "Yes. I wonder if your distinguished self dares." Why wouldn't I dare?" Tang Jing shrugged his shoulders. "I also want to know how much weight the ordinary balance courtyard has. The weight of the ordinary balance courtyard isn't light. An ordinary person would be crushed to the ground by this weight." Ghost Hand said meaningfully. "I don't have any other strong points. It's just that my skin is rough and my flesh is thick. If you want to crush me, the ordinary balance courtyard isn't qualified. Tang Jing said bluntly. Once these words were spoken, everyone was shocked. What a big tone. The ordinary balance courtyard wasn't qualified to crush him. In these people's hearts, not to mention the ordinary balance city, even if it was the entire country, there weren't many people who would dare to speak like this. This was because many people knew that behind the ordinary balance courtyard was the Song family. Challenging the ordinary balance courtyard was equivalent to opposing the current Song family. To these people, the Song family was already equivalent to floating in the clouds. They were too high to reach. No one dared to touch this tiger's whiskers. That was why Tang Zheng's words had caused such a huge reaction. Ghost Han's eyes flashed with a sharp light. He confidently said, "It seems your distinguished self has come with a reason. Since that's the case, then let's see who will win at the gambling table." The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth curled, tacitly agreeing with his proposal. Seeing the other party sit down, he said, "Since you are representing the ordinary balance courtyard, then this bet naturally can't be so small. A few million or even tens of millions is meaningless." Some people sucked in a cold breath. A few million or even tens of millions was nothing in his eyes. Just how much was he prepared to bet? Ghost Han's eyebrows jumped. He said, "Since we've opened the gambling house, then of course we have to satisfy our guests. Your distinguished self, just how much is the desperate situation betting?" Tang Zheng raised his head and looked around. After admiring his surroundings, he said, "Let's bet on the ownership of the ordinary balance courtyard. We'll decide the winner in one round." This was something that Tang Zheng had come up with on the spur of the moment. Previously, he had been prepared to directly take action and use force to seize the ordinary balance courtyard. But after thinking about it, he realized that if he did that, then his reputation wouldn't be too good. It would affect the business of this new club in the future. The gains didn't make up for the losses. The ordinary balance courtyard was a hen that could lay golden eggs. Tang Jing naturally wouldn't kill the hen to get the eggs. But through this gambling house, he could openly win back the ordinary balance courtyard. That would be enough to shut the mouths of those people. He had purposely angered the people at the gambling table in order to make the ordinary balance courtyard send someone to gamble with him. This would save him time. The ownership of the ordinary balance courtyard. Gue Shou's face turned pale with fright. This person had clearly come to cause trouble. In all these years, he had never seen someone who didn't know what was good for him. "Correct. If I win against you, then the ordinary balance courtyard will change owners and become mine," Tang Jing firmly said. The crowd was in an uproar. This person had gone crazy. He actually dared to boast so shamelessly. He even wanted to swallow the ordinary balance courtyard. Wasn't he afraid of bursting his stomach? Gue Shou's expression kept changing. He was one of the managers of the ordinary balance courtyard, but he was unable to decide the fate of the entire ordinary balance courtyard. However, this wasn't a problem for him. He calmly said, "You want to win the ordinary balance courtyard? You want to go on stage with just a few million chips? There isn't such a good thing in this world." Tang Jing disapprovingly retorted, "Who said I only used a few million chips? Then you want to exchange for more chips?" Tang Jing shook his head, "This is my chip." He took out a brocade box and placed it on the table in front of him. The other people all stretched out their necks, curiously looking at the brocade box. They wanted to see just what kind of treasure was inside. "What is this?" Gue Shou asked. "Life continuing pill. Life continuing pill." Everyone's face was filled with suspicion. These people were separated from the capital by thousands of miles. Although the last auction had caused a huge commotion, the majority of them still didn't know the details of this matter. Of course, they hadn't heard of the life-continuing pill. Gue Shou's face was also filled with suspicion. He had clearly never heard of this term. The life-continuing pill is incomparably precious. It is perfect for betting. Tang Zheng paused for a moment. Looking at him, he said, "If you don't believe me, then you can call back and ask about the life-continuing pill." Gue Shou hesitated for a moment before really pulling out his phone. After a while, he confirmed that there really was a life-continuing pill. "Why do you have the life-continuing pill? That isn't something you need to worry about. I'll only say one thing. The life-continuing pill's effects are absolutely true." Gue Shou couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. The wrinkles at the corner of his eyes gradually smoothed out as if he had a second spring. His face gradually became rosy. Gue Shou had already decided that if he won the life-continuing pill and gave it to the Song family, then his future would be even brighter. Of course, he didn't think that he would lose. His gambling skills were exquisite and Tang Zheng wouldn't be able to compare to him. So in this bet, he was completely empty-handed. As long as he won the life-continuing pill, then he would reach the heavens in a single step. Chapter 549. The others didn't know what the hell the life-continuing pill was, but it was actually worth so much money. They all rubbed their eyes, preparing to see the true face of the life-continuing pill after Ghost Hand won so that they could brag to others in the future. It was clear that the majority of the people still believed in Ghost Hand's gambling skills. They believed that this gambling god who had suddenly appeared must be bluffing and would definitely lose. Ghost Hand signaled the beautiful dealer with his eyes, allowing her to deal the cards. The others surrounded the gambling table, admiring this unique gambling game. Just at this moment, a person quickly walked into the gambling hall and loudly shouted, "Tang Zheng, you sure have guts, daring to come to the ordinary balance courtyard to cause trouble." The crowd was fiercely split apart as the people surrounding the gambling table staggered back, revealing a path. A person walked in with the vigor of a tiger. Many people angrily glared at him, wanting to scold him, but when they met his eyes, their hearts trembled and they swallowed the words that were about to come out of their mouths. Seeing this person, Tang Zheng's pupils couldn't help but shrink. His gaze became sharp as he expressionlessly looked at the other person and asked, "Qin Lao, it's really been a long time. Why didn't you stay in Beijing? What did you come to the ordinary balance courtyard for?" This person was Song Yu's bodyguard. Back then, the two of them had met for the first time in the ordinary balance courtyard. At that time, Tang Zheng was quite afraid of him. Greater than over equal to, but things were different now. Tang Zheng no longer needed to be afraid of the other person. Qin Lao heard Tang Zheng's question and said with an unkind expression, "I can come and go as I please. Do I need to tell you what to do?" Actually, when Qin Lao saw Tang Zheng again, his heart was filled with anger and regret. If he had hardened his heart back then and directly killed Tang Zheng, then he wouldn't have created such a strong enemy for the Song family. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. As he watched Tang Zheng grow stronger step by step, he felt powerless. He deeply felt a sense of powerlessness. As a person who thought highly of himself, he could accept being weaker than the members of the several great families. However, he couldn't bear to see Tang Zheng become stronger. This was because he had looked down on Tang Zheng from the very beginning. Of course, Tang Zheng could tell that the other party was looking down on him, but he didn't care and said, "You don't need to tell me, but ordinary balance is my hometown. If the Song family dares to stir up trouble here, I definitely won't stand by and watch." A murderous glint flashed in Qin Lao's eyes. This time, he was not here for a vacation. He was here with a mission. The Song family really regarded Tang Zheng as a threat, so they began to research strategies to deal with Tang Zheng. After some discussion, they finally decided to start with Tang Zheng's headquarters, Ordinary Balance. Hadn't the underground forces in Tang Zhang's hands been wiped out? Then, they would take advantage of this period of vacuum to occupy the underground world of ordinary balance. From there, they could use this underground force to attack Tang Zhang when necessary. Of course, this wasn't a complicated matter, and it wasn't a big deal. Therefore, the Song family only sent Elder Qin as a representative. A few days ago, they had contacted the underground forces in the surrounding counties and cities and were prepared to take action after the Spring Festival. Of course, these underground forces were flattered and treated Qin Lao as a distinguished guest. Usually, they would not have the opportunity to get in touch with the famous Song family. Of course, they would not let go of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They had been waiting for Qin Lao to give the order. Then, the army would come and occupy the underground world of ordinary balance. Although the underground forces of the nearby counties and cities had heard of the power of Chongqing City's extraordinary underground forces, they were still swept away by the authorities in the end. Therefore, their original trace of fear disappeared like smoke in thin air. However, Qin Lao never expected to see Tang Zhang in ordinary balance's courtyard on the first day of the Spring Festival. He did not believe that Tang Zhang came with bad intentions. He did not believe that Tang Zhang came just to win a few rounds of gambling. Therefore, when he found Tang Zhang's figure in the surveillance and Ghost Hand wanted to bet with him, he could not wait to rush over. No matter what Tang Zhang's purpose was, he would not let Tang Zhang succeed. Hearing Tang Zhang's threat, Qin Lao held back his killing intent. However, the others were stunned. Just who was this person? He actually dared to go against the Song family's people. Some well-informed people immediately remembered that ordinary balance had caused a huge uproar and instantly guessed Tang Zhang's identity. Those who originally had a doubtful attitude could not help but somewhat believe it. Perhaps, this young man called Tang Zhang really did have outstanding ability. That was why he dared to go against the Song family and cause such a huge disturbance. Tang Zhang, I don't care what you do in other places. If you dare to cause trouble in ordinary balance's courtyard, then don't blame me for being impolite. Ordinary balance's courtyard is open for guests. Is this how you treat your guests? If you really have something to say, then it won't be too late to say it after I finish betting with Ghost Hand. Tang Zhang said. Qin Lao immediately looked at Ghost Hand and scolded, who told you to bet with him? Ghost Hand was speechless. He did not know who this young man was to actually make the usually aloof Qin Lao so afraid. You're not allowed to bet anymore, Qin Lao said without any trace of politeness. Although Ghost Hand was a gambling expert, his position in the Song family was far from being on par with Qin Lao. Hearing him say this, he did not dare disobey and nodded, yes, Qin Lao. Tang Zhang coldly watched from the sidelines. How could he let Qin Lao disrupt his plans? He sneered, Qin Lao, you really have a lot of face. Just because you say you won't bet, you won't bet. Who do you think you are? Since you agreed to bet with me, then you can only finish the bet. Tang Zhang's unprecedented unyielding attitude caused Qin Lao to fly into a rage. He fiercely glared at Ghost Hand and asked, what is your bet? A life-continuing pill. Ghost Hand nervously said. When Qin Lao heard the name life-continuing pill, his eyes lit up with joy. He was already at the end of his life. If he could obtain a life-continuing pill, then his future cultivation would definitely be able to reach the next level. Although the Song family had obtained 2 life-continuing pills at the auction, where would he get a share? So when he heard the 3 words life-continuing pill, he could not help but feel a surge of emotion and let his imagination run wild. But before he could be happy for too long, he saw Tang Zhang point to the roof and add, there is also this ordinary balance courtyard. What, ordinary balance courtyard? Qin Lao's heart skipped a beat and his face turned pale with fright. Ghost Hand, who gave you the right to use the ordinary balance courtyard as a bet? Ghost Hand's face was deathly pale as he stammered, unable to say a single word. Ghost Hand cannot make this decision, so this bet is invalid and does not count. Qin Lao firmly said. Tang Jing revealed a smile that was not a smile and said, since he agreed to my bet, it won't be that easy to give up halfway. If he doesn't want to bet with you, then I want to see what you can do. Tang Zhang's eyes turned cold as he gave Lin Hu a meaningful glance. Lin Hu tacitly understood and grabbed Ghost Hand. He pressed him onto the gambling table and said, if you don't want to bet, then don't bet. Who do you think you are? Ghost Hand's gambling skills were very good, but he did not have any skills. He was so scared that he trembled and looked towards Qin Lao for help. Qin Lao flew into a rage and said, Tang Jing, you dare to touch a Song family member. You are courting death. After saying this, he stepped forward like a fierce tiger and grabbed at Lin Hu. Wah! Immediately, cries of alarm rang out as everyone retreated 3 steps back. However, there was not the slightest trace of fear between their brows. Instead, their eyes burned with passion. This kind of excitement was not easy to see. On the first day of the new year, there were many good shows appearing one after another. It was truly wonderful. Seeing that Qin Lao was about to grab Lin Hu did not have the slightest bit of resistance in front of him. However, Lin Hu did not have the slightest bit of fear, nor did he retreat. Instead, he grabbed Ghost Hand even tighter. Pang! A hand appeared in front of Lin Hu, blocking Qin Lao's attack. With a muffled sound, Qin Lao staggered backwards, knocking into several guards before stopping. He was battered and exhausted. The air froze for a few seconds. No one dared to breathe too loudly as they watched this scene in disbelief. With just one move, Tang Jing forced his opponent to retreat. As a result, the winner was immediately decided. Old man Qin's face turned the color of a pig's liver as he looked at the ridicule in everyone's eyes. He felt as if he was about to go crazy. With a low roar, he charged towards Tang Jing like a wild beast. A sharp light flashed in Tang Jing's eyes. Seeing that Qin Lao was about to close in, his figure flashed and dodged the opponent's attack. Then, he grabbed Qin Lao's collar and pressed him against the gambling table. A cold light flashed in his hand and a dagger appeared. With a fierce stab, the back of Qin Lao's hand was nailed to the gambling table. Blood flowed and dyed the gambling table red. These few moves were clean and neat. It was so handsome that many women in the crowd had their eyes lit up. They exclaimed softly, "Wow, so handsome, so manly." The men were shocked by Tang Zhang's decisive killing move. They were speechless for a long time. Qin Lao unconsciously let out a scream. His forehead was covered in cold sweat as he angrily roared, "Tang Jing, you dare to touch me? Hee, I even dared to kill the Chu clan's patriarch, let alone a small character like you. Do you think that if I really kill you, what can the Song family do to me?" Tang Jing disdainfully said. Qin Lao's heartstrings trembled. Only now did he remember Tang Zhang's actions. He was no longer the small character he was before. Instead, he was a decisive and ruthless person. Just like Tang Jing said, even if he killed Qin Lao, what could the Song family do to him? Immediately, he felt a strong sense of fear. He struggled with all his might, wanting to escape from Tang Zhang's hands. However, Tang Jing pointed at his body and his acupuncture points were immediately sealed. He was unable to move. Blood quickly flowed out from the back of his hand and dyed the gambling table red. Ghost Hand was pressed onto the gambling table. He could only watch as the blood flowed towards his mouth like a small stream. He was so scared that he screamed. The beautiful dealer was so scared that her face lost all color. She fell to the ground. Tang Jing indicated for Lin Hu to let go of Ghost Hand and said, "Our gambling will continue." Now that we don't have this annoying fly interfering, we can gamble to our heart's content. Ghost Hand trembled incessantly. His face was as white as paper. How could he still dare to gamble? He cowered and couldn't say a single word. Hee, it seems like you guys want to rest. That's fine as long as you don't care about him dying from blood loss. Tang Zheng indifferently shrugged and calmly sat down. Chapter 550. At this moment, Tang Zheng's aura was like a rainbow. Many people didn't dare to look at him directly, but Feng Yong was excited. He looked at Tang Zheng with eyes full of worship. He thought to himself that if he could be this handsome one day, he would have no regrets in life. Ghost Hand finally overcame the fear in his heart and urged, "Then let's hurry up and gamble." He was deeply afraid that Qin Lao would die from excessive blood loss because of him. If that happened, he would be blamed. The Song family would definitely hold him responsible. The young man in front of him was clearly here to cause trouble. Since he wasn't even afraid of the Song family, what else could he say? He could only use all his skills to gamble on this round. However, his confidence was no longer as strong as before. He was worried about his gains and losses. Tang Jing squinted his eyes and smiled. He said to the dealer sitting on the ground, "Beauty, it's your turn to deal the cards. Don't be afraid. I'm not a bad person." The dealer was about to cry. "You're not a bad person. You pierced someone's palm with a knife and you're not a bad person." She was scared to death. With great difficulty, she restrained her weakness and stood trembling in front of the gambling table. However, when she saw the red blood that stained half of the gambling table, she almost fainted. "Deal the cards," Tang Jing said. This time, it was a bet between two people. There was no need to add additional stakes. All 5 cards were dealt at once. The gambling table in front of Tang Jing and Ghost Hand was dyed red with blood. The dealer looked at Tang Jing inquiringly. Should the cards be dealt like this? That way, the cards would be stained with blood. Seeing that Tang Jing didn't respond, the dealer could only muster up the courage to deal the cards to the blood-stained area. However, when the cards were about to land on the gambling table, the blood on the gambling table seemed to have a life of its own. It automatically flowed in all directions, leaving a clean spot. Not a trace of blood stained the cards. When everyone saw this magical scene, they were amazed. They didn't know how Tang Jing did it. However, Ghost Hand's cards didn't have such preferential treatment. They were directly dealt into a pool of blood, which made the corner of Ghost Hand's mouth twitch. After the 5 cards were dealt, the faces of the two were very strange. The Ghost Hand table had 10 of spades, J, Q, and K, which had a straight flush. On the other hand, Tang Zheng's cards were much smaller and very messy, with 2 of spades, 3 of spades, 7 of spades, and 9 of spades, but there was also a possibility of a flush. Everyone else stared at their cards with their eyes wide open. It was as if they wanted to use X-ray vision to see through their cards. This kind of card was too interesting. There were many possibilities. Netherclaw resisted the urge to vomit and picked up a corner of his trump card from the pool of blood. The others also wanted to take a closer look, but Netherclaw blocked their line of sight, making it impossible for them to see. Tang Jing also looked at Netherclaw with interest. Since this person's gambling skills were so exquisite, and he was called Netherclaw, then he must have 1,000 techniques that had reached perfection. Otherwise, unless it was someone like Tang Jing who knew magic, how could others get whatever cards they wanted? Tang Jing had never seen anyone cheat, but when he thought about it, it was nothing more than 2 fast hands, changing cards before anyone noticed. Therefore, Tang Jing specially stared at Netherclaw, wanting to see some clues. As expected, the moment Netherclaw raised his card, a card slipped out from his sleeve. With a light hook of his finger, the card on the table slipped into his sleeve. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to notice it at all. Only an expert like Tang Jing could see through it. He smiled proudly in his heart. As expected of Netherclaw, he was as hard to detect as a ghost. However, he didn't expose him. In front of him, all kinds of techniques were useless. Netherclaw successfully changed his card, and seeing that Tang Jing didn't have any reaction, he secretly let out a sigh of relief. The card change was successful, and the card in his hand was the ace of spades. Like this, it was a straight flush. Even if Tang Jing also had an ace of spades, it would be enough to beat him. The moment he changed his card, Tang Jing saw that his trump card had changed to the ace of spades, so he also knew his trump card. Even so, he sat steadily on Mount Tai, not showing the slightest bit of abnormality. Ordinary Balance's courtyard is safe. Netherclaw silently said in his heart, this person is still lacking. My title of Netherclaw is not for nothing. Tang Jing looked at Netherclaw without batting an eyelid, and said, you're so confident. It seems like you got a good set of cards? Netherclaw reservedly said, it's okay. Hearing him say this, the others all guessed the clues, and began to whisper to each other. Netherclaw's card can't be a straight flush, right? It's very possible, otherwise how could he be so confident? Then that means Tang Jing will definitely lose. Then everyone can see what the life-continuing pill is like. Don't say any more. Look, they're about to reveal their cards. Tang Jing didn't look at his own card, but only calmly looked at Netherclaw, and said, since you're so confident, then let's reveal our cards together and reveal the answer. How about it? Okay. Netherclaw's confidence increased a bit. The two of them grabbed their cards at the same time and flipped them over, fiercely slamming the two cards on the table. Paw paw. With two soft sounds, Netherclaw's cards fell into a pool of blood, splashing out a few blood stains. But Tang Jing's cards still fell, and the blood on the table automatically retreated without the slightest trace of stain. Everyone's eyes widened as they looked at the two cards, and cries of alarm rang out. Wah, how could it be this kind of card? Qin Lao not only stared at Netherclaw, he also stared at Tang Jing, wanting to see if he cheated. But he saw that Netherclaw cheated, but he didn't see any sign of Tang Jing breaking the rules. This was because, from beginning to end, he only touched his cards when he flipped them over. At other times, his hands weren't on the table, so there was no chance for him to cheat. But when he saw the cards on the table, Qin Lao was stunned, and his eyes almost fell out. What the hell was going on? The cards were two aces, one spade, and one plum. But the spade was Tang Jing's card, and the plum was Netherclaw's. Netherclaw's face suddenly froze as he looked at the cards in disbelief. The plum was stained with blood, and was exceptionally dazzling. He turned pale with fright and cried out crazily, impossible, absolutely impossible. My card was clearly the ace of spades, how could it become the ace of clubs? Tang Jing looked at him with a smile and said, everyone here isn't blind. Can't you even tell the difference between a spade and a plum? Everyone take a look, who won and who lost. Without a doubt, of course it was Tang Jing who won. The cards in his hand were a flush, and Netherclaw's cards were a straight. The flush was bigger than the straight, so of course he won. Wow, this is really exciting. No one would have thought that Tang Jing's card would be the ace of spades. This victory was too close. Didn't Netherclaw always say that his card was the ace of spades? Why is it the ace of clubs? Could it be that his eyes are blurred and he mistook the plum for spades? It's very possible. A loss is a loss, and a win is a win. Making such a ruckus, there's no elegance at all. The crowd was discussing spiritedly, but even more people were looking at them expectantly. This was because if Tang Jing won, then the ordinary balance courtyard would change owners. But would Tang Jing really get what he wanted? Many people were still doubtful. Netherclaw had already sat down on the ground, forgetting to shout. He stared dumbstruck at Tang Jing, muttering to himself, "Impossible, impossible." He had already cheated countless times, and had never failed. How could he have mistaken the plum for a spade? So it could only be that Tang Jing's gambling skills were better than his, so he had switched cards. Of course Tang Jing didn't switch cards. A small illusion technique was enough to completely change both of their cards. Netherclaw was grief-stricken, because he knew he was dead for sure. After losing the ordinary balance courtyard, how could the Song family let him off? Tang Jing stood up, cupped his hands towards the crowd, and said, "Today, I thank everyone for being witnesses. From now on, the ordinary balance courtyard will change its surname to Tang. I hope everyone will support me in the future." "Tang Jing, don't even think about it." Qin Lao gnashed his teeth and said weakly. Tang Jing looked at him with ridicule and said, "Today is a joyous day. I don't want to kill anyone, so you better shut your mouth. Otherwise, next year's New Year's Day will be your death anniversary." Qin Lao's heart trembled. He wanted to say a few more tough words, but he forcibly held them back. He already understood that Tang Jing really dared to kill him. If he provoked him, he would be the one to suffer in the end. Moreover, his blood had been flowing non-stop, and his body had already become very weak. But he still fiercely glared at Netherclaw and said, "After losing the ordinary balance courtyard, you can just wait to die." When Netherclaw heard this, his whole body trembled, and he completely collapsed. He crawled up from the ground in panic and screamed, "I don't want to die." Then, he squeezed through the crowd and hurriedly fled outside. He fell at the entrance, but crawled back up. Without caring about his injuries, he disappeared in the blink of an eye. Tang Jing didn't pay attention to him. This was just a small character. The Song family wouldn't let him go, so why would he need to take action? Tang Jing waved his hand at the trembling guards. These guards acted as if they were facing a great enemy. In their hearts, Qin Lao was a celestial existence. But in front of Tang Jing, Qin Lao was like a clay chicken that couldn't even withstand a single blow. They were even less of a match for him, so no one dared to do such a suicidal action. "Take him and scram for me. From now on, if he dares to take a single step into the ordinary balance courtyard, this will be his fate." The moment his voice fell, Tang Jing slammed his palm onto the gambling table, only to hear a "kacha" sound as the gambling table shattered into pieces. Almost everyone couldn't help but shiver, and an indescribable fear welled up in their hearts. At the same time, they firmly remembered Tang Jing's face in their hearts. In the future, when they returned, they would definitely warn their friends and family not to provoke this guy called Tang Jing in the ordinary balance courtyard. Otherwise, they would really die very, very miserably. In addition, when you return, tell Song Yu, "Don't think that I don't know what he has done in secret. I will pay him back double." Tang Jing added. The guards hurriedly nodded, and as if they had been granted amnesty, they took the almost unconscious Qin Lao and left. Then, Tang Jing arranged for Lin Hu and Fire Phoenix to take over the ordinary balance courtyard. The two of them were no strangers to this kind of business, so they immediately took action. The guests also left one after another. Without a doubt, the ordinary balance courtyard would soon spread the news that the ordinary balance courtyard had changed owners. Chapter 551. The guards in Ordinary Balance's courtyard had been dismissed, but it was impossible for such a big club to not have any guards. However, this was not a problem for Tang Jing. He still had the mysterious power of the witch tribe in his hands, which was more than enough to be a guard. There was probably no other club with such a strong security force. Under the leadership of Tian Chanzi, the witch tribe had already gained a foothold in the southwest neighbor. Since his identity had been exposed, the witch tribe had to slowly stand on the stage. Coincidentally, during the Chinese New Year, he finally got in touch with Tian Chanzi. After all, this was a modern society, and communication was very advanced. Both sides exchanged opinions, and Tian Chanzi immediately said that he would send some witch tribe warriors to ordinary balance. These witch tribe warriors had already adapted to modern life, so they would not have any problems in ordinary balance. As for the other matters in the club, Tang Jing, as a hands-off manager, left them all to Lin Hu and the others. He was relieved, but some people were living a life worse than death. Qin Lao's wound had stopped bleeding. His injury was not serious, but he had lost a lot of blood. He was a little dizzy, his legs were weak, and his face was pale. At this moment, he was sitting in a mansion in Jade Sand City. Jade Sand City was a provincial capital city, and it was much more prosperous than ordinary Balance City. He sat on the sofa without saying a word, and a few people carefully accompanied him. One of them was a middle-aged man with a square face and a fierce face. This man was Lei Ming, the leader of Jade Sand City's underground world, just like Huang San's position in ordinary balance. However, Lei Ming was after all a provincial capital city, so his influence was greater. This time, Qin Lao had allied with several underground forces, and Lei Ming was the biggest. Therefore, after he suffered a loss in ordinary balance, he rushed to Jade Sand City without stopping. To be honest, Qin Lao was still a little afraid that Tang Jing would change his mind and take the opportunity to kill him. If that happened, he would definitely die even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms, so escaping to Lei Ming's territory was obviously much safer. He still hadn't reported the matter of the ordinary balance monastery to Song Yu. That was because this was an extraordinary shame and humiliation for him. Although the ordinary balance monastery wasn't that important to the Song family, it had still fallen into the hands of others. If others found out, they would definitely become a laughingstock. Qin Lao was hesitant. He wasn't willing to flee back to Beijing like this. If he did, he wouldn't be able to raise his head in the Song family. However, he couldn't think of a good way to take back ordinary balance villa. After a while, Lei Ming finally couldn't bear it anymore. He said with righteous indignation, "Qin Lao, don't worry. He's just a kid who hasn't even grown hair yet. This time you've fallen into his trap. Next time we'll just have to find our way back." Qin Lao's eyebrows jumped. He was about to angrily say, "Do you think it'll be that easy to find our way back?" However, he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. He thoughtfully looked at Lei Ming and nodded, with Boss Lei's words, "Then I'm relieved." Lei Ming was overjoyed. His actions had finally moved the other party. He hurriedly said, "Qin Lao, just watch. I'll definitely make this kid look good." Then what are you going to do? Doesn't he have a property in ordinary balance? We have a lot of people. We'll just directly smash his property and let him know the consequences of offending the Song family and you, Qin Lao. Lei Ming said as if it wasn't a big deal. Qin Lao sighed in his heart. He thought that the other party had some kind of trick up his sleeve, but it turned out that it was just a bunch of cheap tricks. They couldn't attack Tang Zhang's foundation at all. In the eyes of ordinary people, these so-called underground powers were so fierce that they did not dare to provoke them, but in old man Qin's eyes, they were too small. The young master's move was not very clever, but it could only give Tang Jing a little bit of trouble. However, Qin Lao didn't attack Lei Ming's self-confidence. Instead, he encouraged him, "Oh, then I'll leave it to you." Lei Ming was overjoyed. He pointed at a young man sitting next to him and said, "Qin Lao, this is my son. I'll leave this matter to him. I guarantee that he'll do a good job." If Tang Zheng was here, he would definitely recognize this young man. This was the handsome young master who was slapped by Lan Yu in the shopping mall. His full name was Lei Jun. The handprint on Lei Jun's face had already disappeared, but the evil fire in his heart had nowhere to vent. That day, he was slapped in front of a big star. After the incident, he still couldn't find the culprit. This caused him to lose a lot of face. The big star that he originally had hopes of winning over flew away just like that. It was too late for regrets. Since his old man gave him such an important task, then he would use this person to vent his anger and relieve the evil fire in his heart. Lei Jun looked at Qin Lao and squeezed out a smile, saying, "Qin Lao, please rest assured. I will definitely not disappoint you and complete the task." Qin Lao nodded his head in approval. But Qin Lao didn't place his hopes on this unreliable father and son pair. Instead, he went to find another person. In this province, only he had the authority to help him take back the ordinary balance courtyard. Tang Jing didn't know about Qin Lao's countermeasures. The sky was already dark. Just as he returned to his house, he was stopped by two people downstairs. Lan Yu and Wu's faces were calm. After seeing Tang Jing, Lan Yu squeezed out a smile with great difficulty and said, "Little Jing, I have to go." Tang Jing's eyes flashed with a strange light. He thought that Lan Yu wanted to fight a long battle to the death. He didn't think that he would compromise so quickly. He was secretly happy and nodded his head without batting an eyelid. "Little Jing, I originally thought that I could stay by your side to make up for the mistakes and regrets of these years. I didn't think that the heavens would make a fool of me. I have no choice but to leave." Lan Yu's expression was lost as he bitterly said, "If you have something to do, then go do it." Tang Jing's heart couldn't help but soften. Although this period of time was short, he had seen everything that Lan Yu had done. However, it was impossible for him to forgive her just like that. In the future, you have to take good care of yourself. Don't put yourself in danger. Calm down when you encounter trouble. Don't be merciful to your enemies. Otherwise, the one who will be hurt in the end will be you or your family. Lan Yu began to nag endlessly, completely like a mother who was about to leave to her son. "I know," Tang Jing said indifferently. Seeing Master's wife's heartbroken appearance, Wu fiercely glared at Tang Jing and said unjustly, "Tang Jing, do you know that Master's wife did this for your safety? Even Master and the martial sect broke off because of you, do you know?" Tang Jing was surprised and asked curiously, "The martial sect leader and the martial sect broke off?" "Yes, it's all because of you. Now it's all a mess." "How could it be because of me?" Tang Jing was confused, but he was also shocked by this news. As one of the three mysterious organizations, if the position of sect leader was changed, it would definitely cause a huge reaction from all sides. Who knows, it might even cause a storm, but how could this have anything to do with him? Seeing his blank expression, her martial chi came out of nowhere. Her master and mistress had done so much for him, yet he was completely unaware of it. Furthermore, he did not appreciate their kindness. It really angered her to death. She did not care that her mistress was hinting at her with her eyes and directly said, "Of course it's because of you. Because you are Master's son, and because you have the identity of a cultivator, how could the martial sect tolerate the sect Master's son being a cultivator?" Thus, for you, the sect master broke off relations with the two elders. As a result, they allied with the Li Palace's palace master and stripped him of his position as sect master. Tell me, if this isn't because of you, who else could it be? Seeing that Marshall had directly ignored his gaze, Lan Yu hurriedly pulled Marshall back, and said to Tang Jing with a forced smile, "Little Jing, don't listen to her nonsense, all of this is not because of you, it's just a scheme hatched by others, it has nothing to do with you." Tang Jing was not an idiot, of course he understood that what Wu said was the truth. He had actually affected the position of the martial sect leader, and that person had broken off relations with the martial sect because of him. This was indeed something that he did not expect. He had always thought that that person was drunk with power. Back then, in order to protect the position of sect leader, he had only watched as he was almost killed by others without doing anything. Therefore, Tang Zheng had always hated him. But now that he heard that person give up everything for him, it completely broke the image of that person in Tang Zheng's eyes. For a moment, Tang Zheng was at a loss for what to do. Mistress, I want to say it today. Maybe you guys were wrong back then, but now that you guys have done so much for him, he still has such a stinky face every day. Who exactly is he trying to show it to? Tang Zheng, don't you usually brag about being fair and upright? You can put yourself in other people's shoes, but can't you put yourself in the shoes of master and mistress? If you were in their position, what would you do? At least I won't abandon my own child. Tang Zheng blurted out. This was the eternal pain in his heart. Originally, the wound had already formed a scar, but because of the appearance of Lan Yu and Wu Junshan, the wound was torn open once again, dripping with blood. When Lan Yu heard this, his face turned as pale as paper. He trembled and said, "Yes, it was our fault back then. I don't have the qualifications to beg for your forgiveness." Seeing her like this, Tang Zheng couldn't bear it, but he stubbornly refused to admit his mistake. Seeing that, Wu scolded loudly, "Tang Zheng, you bastard. Do you know how cruel it is to treat mistress like this? Since you already know about the matter of the martial organization, then I still have to remind you that there is another mysterious power behind the elders and the Li Palace. You must be careful. I will also do my best to investigate and see who wants to deal with my child behind this. I will definitely not let my child be threatened again." Lan Yu said resolutely and decisively. Hearing these sonorous and powerful words filled with killing intent, Tang Zheng felt a warm current flow through his head. Just as he was about to apologize, Lan Yu's figure disappeared in a flash. The moment she turned around, Tang Zheng could clearly see a crystal-clear light flashing in her eyes. Seeing this scene, Wu Qi gasped for breath. He stomped his feet hatefully and said, "You treat them like this, but they still treat you well without any complaints or regrets. Are you a blockhead? You're completely obedient to your women, and you're completely devoted to them. Don't tell me you're not willing to treat them better." Chapter 552. On the first day of the new year, Lingard and Ai left the ordinary balance and started the star creation project step by step according to the plan. Marshall came one after another and still occupied Tang Zheng's bedroom. Moreover, she did not have a good expression as she gnashed her teeth, wishing that she could beat up Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng originally did not want to bring along this burden, but he knew that his previous actions were somewhat inappropriate, so even if Marshall was resentful, he did not fight back. In any case, it was not like Marshall had not been by his side before, so he had already adapted to this kind of life. However, the old man was somewhat disappointed with Lan Yu's departure. He originally thought that this mother and son pair would improve their relationship, but it seemed that the road ahead was long and not easy. On the second day of the new year, Tang Zheng did not stay idle as he came to Fang Shishir's house early. This was because yesterday, Fang Shishir had told his parents that she wanted to have a meal with him. The only regrettable thing was that Marshall, this burden, did not leave. No matter how he threatened her, she did not buy it. In the end, he had no choice but to compromise. Marshall did this on purpose. Tang Zheng dared to treat his master and mistress like that, so she could not let him do as he wished. She was very happy to add a bit of pressure to his heart. Standing at the door, Marshall glanced at his empty hands, curled her lips and said, "It's the new year and you don't even know that I brought some gifts." Tang Zheng shrugged his shoulders and gave a nonchalant smile. The door opened and Fang Shishir was pleasantly surprised as she stood at the door and called out, "Quickly come in." Suddenly, her face stiffened as she saw Marshall behind Tang Zhang and awkwardly said, "You also came." "If he wants to come, I can't do anything about it," Tang Zhang helplessly said. Fang Shishir smiled and said, "No problem, it's the new year. Everyone should gather together. The more the merrier." However, Shi Mengqin clearly did not have any thoughts of livening things up with more people. When she saw Wu Ho, her expression instantly changed. She thought in her heart, just what is this Tang Jing up to? He even brought a girl to my house. Is he really trying to anger me? When she saw that Tang Jing was empty-handed, her face darkened. How could he not bring any gifts on New Year's Day? Was this the attitude of a junior? He didn't even put her in his eyes. Even though Shi Mengqin already knew that Tang Zhang's background was not simple, it was also because of this that she took the initiative to invite Tang Zhang to her home as a guest. Her attitude towards Tang Zhang was unpredictable. Every time she found him pleasing to the eye, Tang Zhang would make some trouble for her. But after that, he would give her a big surprise. She had no choice but to adjust her attitude, which made her very tired. Fang Chonghua, on the other hand, was much calmer. He didn't have a strong impression of Tang Jing, although Tang Jing had many good points and flaws. Even though Shi Mengqin's expression was not good, Tang Jing still smiled and said, "Auntie, Happy New Year." Shi Mengqin was expressionless as she turned around to leave. "Auntie, this is my New Year's gift to you. It's just a small token of my respect." Tang Zhang's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast as he hurriedly took out a porcelain bottle from his pocket. Shi Mengqin raised her foot but retracted it. She curiously looked at the porcelain bottle and said, "Just come, why bring a gift?" However, she silently cursed in her heart, "It's just a small porcelain bottle. It doesn't seem to be anything high grade. What good can it be?" She had a face of disappointment and was about to place it to the side. Fang Shishir saw through her mother's thoughts and hurriedly asked, "Tang Jing, what's inside?" She knew that Tang Zhang's gift was definitely not ordinary, so she purposely asked to give her boyfriend some face. Pill. Pill. "Tang Jing, what is the meaning of this? Giving me medicine on New Year's Day, are you trying to curse me to death?" Shi Mengqin heard this and immediately flipped out. Fang Shishir revealed an awkward expression as she glared at Tang Jing. In her heart she was saying how could he be so careless as to give her such a thing. However, she hurriedly explained for her boyfriend, "Mom, he definitely didn't mean it that way. He is just this careless, so please don't mind him. Auntie, this is not a normal pill. It is a pill refined by the king of medicine that can improve one's physique, retain one's youth, and prolong one's life." Tang Jing explained. This was indeed refined by the king of medicine. When he first saw Tang Jing refine the life-continuing pill, he pondered over it for a period of time before finally coming up with this pill. Of course, this pill did not have as good of an effect as the life-continuing pill, but it did not lack many precious ingredients and special refining methods. It really did have the effects that Tang Jing said it had. Hearing the king of medicine's name, Shi Mengqin and Fang Chonghua's expression slightly changed. Originally, they had met the king of medicine several times in the hospital. Afterwards, Fang Chonghua took this matter to heart and specially investigated the king of medicine. Only then did he know that the king of medicine actually had such a great reputation. This kind of expert was not someone they had the opportunity to come into contact with. Now that this small porcelain bottle actually contained a pill personally refined by the king of medicine, it was simply a priceless treasure. Shi Mengqin originally felt that she was unlucky, but at this moment her expression immediately changed. Unable to contain her joy, she asked, "Was it really refined by the king of medicine? This is a new pill refined by him." "Currently, there is only this small bottle in your hands and no one else has it," Tang Jing calmly said. "There's only one bottle in the world. Shi Mingqin's eyes widened and even Fang Chongguo's face was filled with surprise and joy. He thought to himself that he had still underestimated the value of this pill. However, since there was only one bottle in the world and it was in Tang Zheng's hands, then how good was the relationship between Tang Zheng and the King of Medicine? Otherwise, why would the King of Medicine give such an important pill to him? Even though Fang Chongguo always knew that Tang Zheng would give him a surprise from time to time, he did not think that the surprise this time would be so big. Shi Mingqin hurriedly put it into her bosom as if she was afraid that Tang Zheng would go back on his word. This caused Fang Shishir to helplessly roll her eyes. Her mother was sometimes too snobbish, causing her to feel helpless. Tang Zheng already knew of Shi Mingqin's nature and did not mind. He then took out a jade bracelet and a jade guanyin and said, "This jade bracelet is prepared for auntie and this jade guanyin is prepared for uncle." Now that Tang Zheng had money, the jade items he bought would not be as low-end as before. These two jade items were worth several 100,000 each and even in Shi Mingqin's eyes, they could be considered a decent gift. The contrast between Tang Zheng's before and after was too big, causing Shi Mingqin to be at a loss. She thought to herself that he could not have taken out the gifts earlier. This kind of contrast between before and after really made her heart unable to take it. Seeing her parents treat these two gifts as normal jade items, Fang Shishir hurriedly explained, "Dad, Mom, you must not look down on these two gifts. Their value is not any less than that bottle of pills. Don't joke around. It's only two jade items, how could they be compared to this kind of priceless treasure?" Shi Mingqin disagreed. "It's true. These two items are not normal jade items. They have been refined using a special method so they have a defensive effect. If someone attacks the wearer, the jade item will automatically cancel out the attack and protect the wearer." Shi Mingqin and Fang Chongguo looked at each other in dismay as they both thought of the same thing, the temple's magical equipment. Many rich people like to go to the temple to have their magical equipment consecrated by a great master. They believe that magical equipment can eliminate disasters, but many people understand that this is only a psychological effect. No one would actually be able to save their life because of this little toy. Hearing their daughter's words, they could not help but feel that their daughter was exaggerating. Seeing that they did not believe her, Fang Shishir anxiously said, "This is absolutely true. You must believe it." Tang Zheng spent a great deal of effort to refine these. He refined them. Tang Zheng smiled and nodded his head. The two of them were not clear on matters regarding cultivators and did not know Tang Zheng's true identity. Half believing and half doubting, they said, "Okay, we believe you. You must remember to wear them on your body at all times." Fang Shishir warned. Tang Zheng did not explain any further. Although the two of them clearly did not believe in this kind of miraculous use, they placed more of their attention on the small bottle of pills. Shi Mingqin asked for the details of how to use the pills and impatiently ran back to her room. After this interruption, the originally awkward atmosphere became joyous and harmonious. Fang Shishir quietly said to Tang Zheng, "Mom locked the pills in the safe as if she was afraid someone would steal them." Tang Zheng laughed involuntarily as he did not take these pills seriously and only took them out on a whim. However, this gave him an idea. Since he wanted to use the King of Medicine as a gimmick to set up a pharmaceutical company, then these pills could be pushed into the market. There was no need to doubt the effects of these pills and they would definitely be popular. This was equivalent to having another source of income. Not long after, a table of delicacies was placed on the table. The few of them sat together and Fang Chongguo took the initiative to ask Tang Zheng to drink a few cups. Tang Zheng did not refuse and the two of them drank to their heart's content. Fang Chongguo excitedly asked, "Little Zheng, after the previous storm, what do you plan to do in the future?" "Reinvigorate the flag and drum, become bigger and stronger." Tang Zheng simply said 8 words. Fang Chongguo wrinkled his eyebrows and said, "This will not be easy. Where there is a will, there is a way." Tang Jing faintly smiled, full of confidence. Fang Chongguo was suddenly startled as he was infected by Tang Zhang's strong confidence and could not help but feel ashamed of his own inferiority. He was implicated by Tang Zhang, and during the Dragon Group's storm last time, several of his real estate projects were stopped. Thus, many of his business partners suddenly withdrew their investments, causing his capital chain to break. Although he was not bankrupt, he had no choice but to part with his treasures and stop many of his real estate projects. This year, he did not have a good new year. When he was alone, he would often frown and sigh. Now, he did not have a place to raise funds, and as time passed, his situation would only worsen. However, he was at his wit's end and could not find a breakthrough. "What are you planning to do?" Fang Chongguo casually asked. Tang Jing did not hide anything and told him his business plan. Gradually, Fang Chongguo's face became more and more serious and finally became shocked. The wine cup in his hand tilted and he did not even notice the wine spilling on his clothes. Chapter 553. Fang Shishir, on the other hand, did not feel shocked as she looked at Tang Jing in high spirits. The feeling of being in high spirits was extremely handsome. After Tang Jing finished speaking, Fang Chongguo and Shi Mingqin fell into a state of shock and only came back to their senses after a while. Fang Chongguo asked in disbelief, "Tang Jing, do you know how much money you need to invest in this business plan?" "It definitely won't be a small amount, but I don't have that much money right now." Shi Mingqin swallowed her saliva and said, "Young man, don't bite off more than you can chew. This business plan is not something that can be played with just a few million or even tens of millions." Tang Jing nodded his head in agreement. "Auntie is right, so I prepared an initial investment of over 10 billion. "What?" The husband and wife seemed to have springs under their butts as they both jumped up from the sofa and exclaimed in unison. 10 billion, Tang Jing, don't joke around." Shi Mingqin frowned and criticized, "Young man, you can't bite off more than you can chew. Even more so, you can't carelessly boast as it has no practical use." She thought in her heart that this was a joke. "Did you think your family printed money? 10 billion, not $100, how could it be so easy to raise?" Fang Chongguo had worked hard for half his life to amass a few hundred million, and this was after adding in the fixed assets. Even if she was beaten to death, she would not believe that Tang Jing, who was still living in a small broken house half a year ago, would have over 10 billion. This was just like a lunatic's dream. Fang Chongguo nodded his head in agreement with his wife's words and sincerely said, "I know you have great ambitions and this is very hard to come by, but the road must be walked step by step so that you won't fall." Tang Jing completely agreed with his advice and said, "Uncle and Auntie are both right, so this 10 billion is just an initial investment. Afterwards, we will look at the results, and if the results are good, we will add more in the future. Moreover, after investing this 10 billion, there will be quite a bit of profit and it should be enough to smoothly carry out this business plan. Didn't I tell you to stop joking around? Is there any meaning in bragging like this?" Shi Mingqin angrily reprimanded. Fang Shishir also didn't know much about Tang Zhang's specific situation. She hurriedly signaled him with her eyes, took her mother's arm, and advised, "Mom, don't do business. Tang Zhang's idea is still very good. Even if his idea is good, he can't say it like that. Does he really think that money floats down from the sky?" Shi Mingqin complained. Tang Jing shrugged and said, "The money didn't come from nowhere. I found a way to earn it. I believe you will see the results soon." Shi Mingqin was about to retort a few more times when she saw her husband's expression change. Fang Chongguo was not a stupid person, and seeing Tang Zhang's solemn vow, after careful consideration, he could not help but half believe and half doubt. "Tang Jing, are you serious?" "Of course it's true. Why would I lie to you?" Fang Chongguo solemnly asked, "Then where did you get the money?" I auctioned off a few things to raise the money. Around 10 billion, I have already given it to someone else to operate. Tang Jing casually said. His tone was very relaxed, as if it was not 10 billion but only 100 yuan. Even though Fang Chongguo could be considered a millionaire, in the face of such a large amount of money, he could not remain so calm. What did you auction off for it to be worth so much money? Shi Mengqin rushed to ask. She also gradually realized that Tang Jing didn't seem to be spouting nonsense, but she also found it hard to believe. Because this meant that Tang Jing, who she originally thought was a pauper, was much richer than her family. He was simply a rich husband. Just a few small things. Tang Jing half-heartedly said. Since even the ghost realm noticed the matter of the life-continuing pill, then it would be best if this matter did not spread. Seeing that Tang Jing was not willing to speak in detail, Fang Chongguo did not force him. However, his heart was already in turmoil as he pondered just what could be worth such a large amount of money. Shi Mingqin's eyes began to shine as she stared at Tang Jing as if she was staring at a gold ingot. She impatiently asked, "You said that you gave this money to someone else to operate. How can you be so careless? With such a large amount of money, do you think that other people won't run away with it?" Tang Jing confidently said, "Of course not, I trust them. With such a large amount of money, how could a normal person bear it? Even if you trusted them before, you cannot expect to trust them in the future. This is not good, this money must be managed by someone close to you." Shi Mengqin said without stopping. "I am busy with school and other matters. I don't have time to manage business matters. Moreover, this is not something I am good at, so I can't find anyone else." "Why can't you find anyone?" Shi Mengqin suddenly had an idea as she looked at her husband and said, "That's right, isn't your uncle the most suitable person?" Fang Chongguo was stunned as his heart fiercely jumped. If he was allowed to manage this money, then he really would be moved. This amount of money was bigger than any of his previous business plans. As a businessman, participating in such a large business plan would undoubtedly give him a sense of accomplishment. In addition, his company was already in a financial crisis. If he could cooperate with Tang Zhang's company, then he would be able to rise from the dead. However, Fang Chongguo still had his own reservations and could not be overjoyed after hearing these words. He purposely glared at his wife and complained, "This is his money, so of course he is the one making the decision. Moreover, since he gave it to someone else, then he must have trusted them. If he goes back on his words like this, then what will others think of him?" "That's right, little Zheng, who did you give this money to?" "Sister Mu, Lin Hu and Fire Phoenix." Fang Chongguo was not unfamiliar with Lin Hu and Fire Phoenix. He also knew that these people from the underworld had pledged their allegiance to Tang Jing. However, he did not know much about this Sister Mu. "Who is this Mu?" "Mu Hongyan." "Mu Hongyan." Fang Chongguo exclaimed and asked in bewilderment, "Which Mu Hongyan is it?" "So she works for Dianan's Long family." "Dianan's Long family's Mu Hongyan." Fang Chongguo sucked in a breath of cold air. "It's actually her. Why did you dig her out? She is a famous business genius. At such a young age, she has been in charge of the Long family's huge business empire. These past few months, she has not shown her face. There are rumors that she and the Long family have fallen out. I never thought that she would actually work for you." This was more of a shock to Fang Chongguo than the 10 billion yuan investment. After all, Mu Hongyan was not someone who could be invited with money. She was the daughter-in-law of Dianan's Long family. Immediately, Fang Chongguo stared at Tang Jing as if he wanted to completely see through him. However, no matter how he looked, other than his temperament being completely different from before, there was nothing special about him. Tang Jing could understand the other's shock. He faintly smiled and said, "It's just a coincidence." Shi Mengqin did not understand Mu Hongyan. Moreover, Hearing her husband praise another woman, she was somewhat unhappy in her heart and said, "What's the use of being strong? After all, she is an outsider. Moreover, you are also not bad. How can you feel ashamed?" Fang Chonghua solemnly stared at his wife and said, "My little bit of ability is not worth mentioning in the eyes of the other party. There is no way to compare them. If you let others hear this, you will only become a joke. Do you understand?" Shi Mengqin had never seen her husband praise someone so much. She could not help but understand that this woman must have real ability. She nodded her head and did not refute. "With her help, you can indeed sit back and relax." Fang Chonghua sighed, but he was somewhat disappointed. If he could participate in Tang Zheng's plan, then it would indeed be something to be excited about. However, now that there was Mu Hongyan, he was embarrassed to take the initiative to volunteer. After all, he was an elder. If he took the initiative to volunteer to a junior, he would not be able to wipe away his face. Tang Zheng's eyes flashed as he saw through the other's thoughts and said, "Uncle, if you are interested, then come and help me." "All right." Fang Chonghua's eyes lit up as he blurted out. However, he instantly realized that he had lost his composure and was incomparably embarrassed. Tang Zheng, however, did not treat it as a big deal and said, "With you participating, then I am even more relieved. It is truly my fortune." Fang Chonghua gave a gratified smile. This Tang Zheng really knew how to do things, and even more so, he was able to ease his embarrassment with a single sentence. Shi Mengqin, on the other hand, was somewhat resentful. How did her husband become Tang Zheng's subordinate in the blink of an eye? Wasn't this a mess? In any case, we will be a family in the future. Moreover, our business plan also includes real estate. Uncle, why don't you cooperate with your real estate company and mine? Everyone can develop together and earn money together. As for the specific situation, you have to discuss it with Sister Mu. Fang Chonghua truly felt grateful to the point of tears. This was truly a case of someone handing him a pillow when he wanted to sleep. Tang Zheng's words had reached the bottom of his heart and completely solved his urgent situation. Seeing her boyfriend and father happily chatting, Fang Shishir was also incomparably happy. This way, the barrier between her and Tang Zheng would be completely removed. Only Marshall did not say a word. He coldly looked at Tang Zheng and silently cursed. "You can be so good to people, why can't you be a little better to master and mistress?" Humph, ingrate. Marshall was originally prepared to be a burden to cause trouble for Tang Zheng, but he did not expect that the two people of the Fang family would be so easy to coax. After seeing so much money, they did not have any principles and were directly bought over by Tang Zheng. This meal was enjoyed by both the guests and the host. Shi Mingqin's face lit up with joy and a smile blossomed on her face. Fang Chonghua and Tang Zheng drank to their heart's content. In the end, they became drunk and hugged Tang Zheng's shoulders. They almost called out to the two brothers, but in the end, Shi Mingqin chased them back to their room to sleep. When Tang Zheng entered Fang Shishir's room, Shi Mingqin pretended not to see and allowed the young couple to kiss each other inside. Of course, this was still broad daylight and there were people outside. They could not do such intimate actions without restraint. In the end, Tang Zheng's evil fire was ignited and he was suspended in the air to be tortured. Seeing that it was already late, in order to avoid any mishaps, Tang Zheng could only bid farewell and return home. Marshall glanced at the ugly bulge on his pants and finally laughed. Chapter 554. Of course, Tang Zheng did not force his way into Marshall's room. He could only continue to make do with the sofa in the living room. In the dead of the night, he was completely awake. This was because tonight, he was going to consume the Dragon Yuan Dan to increase his power. The newly refined Dragon Yuan Dan did not have that strong of a medicinal effect, so he wanted to test if he could safely consume it. He calmed himself down and got rid of all distracting thoughts. He sat down cross-legged and swallowed a dragon yuan dan. The moment the dragon yuan dan slid down his throat, it exploded and turned into a ball of energy that rushed towards his 8 extraordinary meridians. Tang Zheng had already prepared a plan to deal with it. He multitasked and circulated the ancient Clear Heaven Scroll, the Chaotic Vajra spell and the Dragon God method. The 3 types of cultivation techniques began to circulate in their own mysterious paths, and the genuine qi surged like a surging river. The energy of the Dragon Yuan Dan was quickly broken into pieces and transported to various parts of his body bit by bit. Thump! The energy flowed around the bones and seeped into them bit by bit. The snow-white bones started to glow with a metallic luster. The energy of a Dragon Yuan Dan was quickly refined, and his skin started to glow with a metallic luster. In the night, he looked like a bronze man. The Chaotic Vajra spell has improved again. Tang Zheng was overjoyed. Plus, during this period of time, he had been cultivating the ancient Clear Heaven Scroll and the Dragon God method, but he had neglected to cultivate the Chaotic Vajra spell. He never thought that the energy of the Dragon Yuan Dan would be so beneficial to tempering his body. The Chaotic Vajra spell required continuous tempering of the body in order to allow the skin and bones to become abnormally strong. Back then, in the 10,000 huge mountains, he had undergone the tempering of the Witch Clan's secret medicine, and then underwent the tempering of the magma in the Sacred Grounds cave, which was why he had reached the Copper Skin realm. In the past few months, the Chaotic Vajra spell had not improved at all. At this moment, he discovered the miraculous use of the Dragon Yuan Dan and could not help but be overjoyed. This was the energy of the Dragon Yuan Dan tempering the body. Originally, the Chaotic Vajra spell required external tempering in order to reach the Copper Skin realm. However, once one reached this realm, the next stage would be the Iron Bones. However, the bones could not be tempered from the outside, and could only be tempered from the inside of the body. This required enough energy to temper the bones from the inside of the body. In the past, the energy of the Dragon Yuan pill was too strong. Every time he took it, his body would explode and he would die. How could he have the mood to temper his bones? Having figured this out, Tang Zheng couldn't wait to consume another Dragon Yuan pill. Most of the energy just now was used to temper his bones, which meant that the energy contained in the new Dragon Yuan Dan was much smaller and was within his control. Whoosh! The energy of the Dragon Yuan pill continued to temper the bones. The metallic luster on the bones turned from light to dark and finally turned golden. When all the bones in his body had been tempered once, he felt that his body had become countless of times stronger. The Chaotic Vajra spell had also increased by a level, reaching the 2nd level, Iron Bones. Now, not only could ordinary external forces not harm his skin, they could not even do anything to his bones. His resistance to attacks had increased exponentially. He really wanted to find someone to stab him with a sword to test his body's resistance. Since there's a ready-made candidate, I'll use her to test my Chaotic Vajra spell. She also hates me to the core, so I'll give her this chance to vent her anger. He flipped over and stood up, knocking on Wu's door. Who? The armed police asked cautiously. Me, are you not asleep yet? What's the matter? Since you haven't slept yet, get up. I have something to talk to you about. Tang Zheng said. Not long later, Wu opened the door and walked out, looking suspiciously at the energetic Tang Zheng, especially since there was still a layer of metallic luster on his skin, which was obviously not there before. Wu looked at him in surprise and asked, "What the hell are you doing now? I know you're very angry with me. I'm a magnanimous person, so I'll give you a chance to vent your anger," Tang Zheng said while beaming. Wu looked at him suspiciously, not knowing what he meant by that. Seeing that he did not understand, Tang Zheng explained, "Let's find a place to spar. I won't retaliate, and will let you attack me." Wu Xiuqi raised her eyebrows. She felt that his request, which was almost masochistic, was inconceivable, but she immediately felt relieved. Since you took the initiative to be cheap, then don't blame me. Alright, where are we going? Let's go downstairs. Tang Jing walked to the window and jumped down from the 10-story building. He was like a big bird, hiding in the night and not being discovered by anyone. After he landed more than 10 meters, the tip of his foot suddenly tapped on the wall, and his falling speed increased by a bit. Seeing that he was about to land on the ground, the tip of his foot tapped on the windowsill of a house, removing most of the force. He landed steadily, lifting heavy as if it was light, and did not make the slightest sound. Wu followed closely behind like a shadow and landed on the ground. However, she did not lift heavy as if it was light, and made quite a bit of noise when she landed. Tang Jing pointed to a small forest next to the district and flew over. Only an afterimage could be seen flashing across the night sky. He flipped over the wall of the district and landed in the small forest. Wu's face was strange because she knew that she was unable to reach Tang Jing's level. She felt helpless and unreconciled with his speed of improvement. Back then, her cultivation was much higher than his. How could she be inferior to him now? She could not help but feel a sense of powerlessness and frustration in her heart, but in an instant, her eyes became firm and she chased after him. This time, he had to give Tang Jing a good look and vent his anger for his master and mistress. The night was like water, and the small forest was pitch black. Only the occasional bit of moonlight that penetrated through the clouds allowed people to clearly distinguish their surroundings. The two of them had outstanding eyesight and were not affected by the darkness. They stood facing each other. Use this blade to attack me. I won't fight back. Tang Jing said as he handed Wu a large blade. Wu weighed the large blade in his hand. It was indeed a sharp blade that shone with a cold light. She looked at him in bewilderment and asked again, "You really want me to attack you? If you pass this village, you won't have this shop anymore. If you want to attack me in the future, it won't be easy." Tang Jing provoked. "Since you're asking for trouble, then I'll help you." Wu snorted, and with a whoosh, the broadsword slashed towards Tang Jing's chest. Bang! Tang Jing was forced back by the strong force. A crack appeared on his jacket, and his slightly golden skin was revealed. However, there was no blood, nor was there a wound. Marshall looked at this scene in shock. She had only used 30% of her strength in this slash, but she did not expect Tang Jing to not resist at all. After eating the slash, he was completely unharmed. Wu also knew that there were some people in the martial arts world who practiced martial arts and boasted that they had copper skin and iron bones. However, she knew that many people were just randomly bragging. If they really slashed with a large blade, they would still have to dodge. Furthermore, if they were not killed, they would still lose half their lives. However, Tang Jing was obviously different from those fake masters. He really used his body to resist the blade. No matter what kind of martial arts you cultivate, eat my second blade. Let's see if you will still be unscathed. Wu rushed forward a few steps and chopped down with the broadsword. The broadsword light lit up with a demonic red light in the darkness. Tang Jing's pupils constricted as he recognized that this was the mental cultivation method of the roaring flame blade. Normally, her hands would be used as a blade, but at this moment, her inner strength was completely attached to the blade. It was as if the blade was burning, and it was much more powerful than the broadsword itself. Tang Jing did not retreat. He bent his knee backwards and supported his body. Seeing the burning broadsword approaching, he puffed out his chest. Bang! Tang Jing slid backwards, creating a gully on the ground. In the end, he broke a tree and fell to the ground with a loud bang. Wu was startled. This time, she had used 90% of her strength. The power of this blade was enough to split open stones. Only then did she suddenly remember that she had used such a ruthless blade out of anger. Would Tang Jing be split in half by him? If that was really the case, then she would not be able to answer to her master and mistress. She threw away the broadsword and hurriedly rushed over, crying out in shock, "Tang Jing, how are you?" Tang Jing laid flat on the ground. The taste of this blade was not good at all. A bright red mark appeared on his chest. His clothes had been completely torn apart by the broadsword, revealing his hard chest. Fortunately, there was no blood, and it did not cut through his skin. Wu looked at this scene with a dumbstruck expression and said, "I have such a powerful blade, yet you are still safe and sound." She had always been confident in her own strength, but when she saw Tang Zhang's heaven-defying ability to resist attacks, she could not help but feel a deep sense of powerlessness. Tang Zhang did not look as good as he looked on the surface. Although he had copper skin and iron bones, his body still felt pain. After withstanding such a powerful attack, the muscles on his chest were almost torn apart, and the pain of his bones falling apart almost caused him to collapse. At this moment, the innate qi crazily surged in his meridians, trying to calm the heart-wrenching pain. The energy of the dragon Yuan Dan that had not been completely refined also became restless, fusing with the surging innate qi, turning into a wild horse that recklessly galloped in his meridians. Gradually, his body became incomparably hot, like a large furnace. His skin, which was originally suffused with a metallic luster, turned fiery red, and his entire body seemed to be on fire. Damn, this is bad. I still underestimated the energy of the dragon Yuan Dan. I originally thought that there would be no problems after tempering my bones, but I didn't expect that the remaining energy would still be so powerful. Taking advantage of my weakness, it actually detonated my pure yang energy. Tang Jing did not know whether to laugh or cry. He had underestimated his opponent too much, especially during this period of time when the pure yang energy was extremely quiet, causing him to overlook this fatal flaw. This time, the pure yang energy had exploded. What should he do? This was not a joke. He already felt that his body was so hot that he could not stand it anymore. The dew on the grass around him was evaporated by his heat. "Hey, what's wrong with you? You were the one who told me to attack you, so you can't blame me," Marshall said. He supported himself with both hands on the ground and stood up with great difficulty. He clenched his teeth and walked into the small district without saying a word. However, the wall that he could walk on as if it was flat ground had now become an insurmountable mountain that he could not cross. "If you want to go home, I'll take you back." Marshall supported him in panic, and with a tap of her toes, she was about to jump into the small district. However, Tang Jing smelled a fragrance at the tip of his nose, and an unending stream of purine energy was transmitted from between the two skin. It was like a drug addict who had encountered drugs, and his wolf was instantly submerged. His entire body became incomparably hot, and his hands immediately hugged her slender waist. It was unknown where he got the strength from, but he grabbed Marshall's clothes and tore them apart. With a ripping sound, Marshall's chest was torn open, and her snow-white skin was exposed. Immediately, Tang Zhang's eyes turned red, and like a wild beast, he pounced forward. Marshall only had time to scream before she was pushed to the ground. "Tang Zhang, you hooligan, you're courting death." Marshall's palm slapped his shoulder, but he was completely unaware of it. He only wanted to rub each other into the other's body. Moreover, his entire body was burning hot, like a branding iron. Chapter 555. Marshall finally understood Tang Zhang's situation and stopped trying to push him away. She remembered her master's instructions. Staying by Tang Zhang's side was to prevent the eruption of pure yang energy. Now, wasn't it time for her to use her skills? Recalling the charming scene in the 10,000 huge mountains, her heart skipped a beat as a hot and dry feeling assaulted her heart. Puff! With the sound of silk tearing, Marshall's clothes were torn open again. The white scenery immediately entered Tang Zheng's eyes, causing his blood to boil. He increased the strength in his hands and firmly fixed Marshall in place. Marshall bit her lips, hesitated for a moment, and finally gave up resisting. The increasingly strong feeling in her heart caused her entire body to go limp. With a strong push from Tang Jing, she was completely lying on the ground, her clothes tattered, and the scenery was half covered and half exposed. However, she did not feel cold because Tang Jing was like a big furnace, causing the surrounding air to heat up. Moreover, no one came to this small forest in the middle of the cold night. She opened her eyes and allowed him to do whatever he wanted. Last time, Tang Jing fell into a coma, so she took the initiative. This time, Tang Jing fell into madness but did not faint, giving her a completely different feeling. That strong beast-like masculine aura caused her breathing to involuntarily quicken. Her cheeks flushed red like a ripe apple. Not long after, the two naked figures rolled on the ground, hugging each other tightly, as if they wanted to completely merge into each other's bodies. Marshall could not help but gently gasp for breath, adding a different kind of scenery to the small forest. The battle continued for a long time. Tang Zheng's bravery was beyond Marshall's imagination. When she could not take it anymore and begged for mercy, Tang Zheng did not seem to hear it. However, she felt his body temperature dropping and the fiery red color on his skin dimming bit by bit. Marshall clenched his teeth and stared at him bitterly, thinking, if I didn't want to save you, why would I be bullied like this? You hooligan, bastard. Ah. Suddenly, everything returned to normal. Marshall laid on the ground, breathing out like orchids. Her entire body was sore and weak, without a trace of strength. Her skin had a delicate and beautiful crimson color. Tang Jing gasped for breath as he lay on her chest, dripping with sweat. His skin had already returned to normal, and his fiery red eyes gradually regained their calm. He slowly lowered his head and saw the beauty beneath him. Suddenly, it was as if a basin of cold water had been poured over him. He shivered. He had actually done that to her, and it was by force. Holy *T, the pure yang energy is erupting. Why am I such a beast? He wanted to cry but had no tears. This damned pure yang energy had erupted without any warning. He had done this completely out of instinct. Although he had silently cursed during the day that he wanted to break into Marshall's room and force himself on her, now that it had really happened, she was at a loss for what to do. With Marshall's temper, wouldn't he be dead for sure? She would castrate him first, then peel off his skin and pull out his tendons. He hurriedly crawled up from her body and subconsciously placed his hands on her chest. Immediately, two breathtaking softness fell into his palms, causing his heart to tremble. Wu Jiao let out a cry as her eyes widened. Tang Jing hurriedly explained, I'm sorry, this was not intentional. I had no intention of doing it just now. It was completely out of instinct to save myself. Seeing him lose his head out of fear, Marshall also calmed down. She once again returned to her ice-cold appearance and said, You yourself said it was instinct. It can be seen how bad your nature is. Tang Jing did not care about these words and said, I promise, there will never be a next time. As the saying goes, things do not happen more than 3 times. He had already done it with her twice. If there really was a 3rd time, he really did not dare to imagine what it would be like. Marshall did not believe his promise. However, seeing him lose his composure, a thought appeared in her mind, it seems that he is quite cute like this. But she immediately threw this absurd thought out of her mind. She only had sex with him because of Master's orders. There is absolutely no other reason. Just now, my situation was very dangerous. After all, you saved me. You have saved my life. If you have any requests, I will definitely satisfy them. Since things had already come to this, he could only do his best to make up for it. Tang Zheng was not the kind of person who would pull up his pants and not admit it. That kind of man was too irresponsible and was no different from an animal. Marshall had an idea and asked, "You really want me to make a request?" Tang Zheng nodded his head heavily, "Of course." "All right, forgive master and mistress," Marshall said. "Forgive them?" Tang Zheng was startled, he did not expect her to make such a request. "Humph, you don't agree, right? I think you are just a person who goes back on his words. Leave my body and scram," Marshall angrily shouted. Tang Zheng was hesitant. Seeing her angry appearance, he advised, "Make another request." "This is my request. Whether you agree or not is up to you," Wu snappily said as she grabbed her clothes and put them on. Unfortunately, her clothes had already been torn apart, revealing her body. It was faintly discernible, which was even more enticing than not wearing any clothes. She took large strides towards the small district. She wanted to jump over the wall, but when her toes touched the ground, her legs went limp and she staggered towards the wall. Tang Zheng cried out in alarm. He immediately rushed over and hugged her. With a tap of his foot, the two of them flew over the wall and landed firmly on the ground. Tang Zheng tightly hugged her slender waist. His palm felt a soul-stirring softness. Marshall's face flushed red. She pushed him away and scolded, "I don't want you to be hypocritical. In any case, you have a heart of stone. You are not even willing to forgive your own parents. Although they are my biological parents, they did not fulfill any of their parental responsibilities. How can I not be angry?" Tang Zheng retorted. "That's because you didn't have the chance before. Since you have the chance now, why can't you give them a chance and let them fulfill some of their responsibilities? Is there a need for you to beat them to death like this?" Marshall's aura was not weak as he argued with reason. Tang Zheng was silent. He indeed did not give them a chance to fulfill their responsibilities. Could it be that he was too cruel? "Master was worried about your safety and specially sent me to stay by your side to protect you. Isn't this concern? How can you turn a blind eye to it?" Marshall chattered on. "If it wasn't for me just now, would you still be standing here alive?" Tang Zheng glanced at her and admitted that she was right. If it wasn't for her, he would have been in danger. So, in reality, it was Wu Junshan who saved his life. Seeing that Tang Zheng's will was wavering, Marshall struck while the iron was hot and said, "As long as you promise to give them a chance, I will forgive you this time." Tang Zheng's heart moved. The other party had already given in. If he continued to persist, wouldn't it be too heartless and cold? "All right, I'll promise you. I'll give them a chance. But if you want me to forgive them immediately, that's impossible." Tang Zheng finally compromised. Marshall was overjoyed. Although this result was not perfect, at least there was progress. He nodded and said, "At least you have some responsibility. Let's go home. If the security patrol sees us, we'll lose a lot." Tang Zheng pointed at his exposed skin and reminded, "How can I leave from the main entrance like this? Moreover, there are surveillance cameras at the bottom of the building." Marshall fiercely glared at him and asked. The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth curled up, and said, "It's nothing, watch me." After saying that, he picked her up by the waist, and with a tap of his foot on the ground, he leaped up a few meters into the air, and then lightly tapped on the wall a few times, and the two of them soared up. Fortunately, it was the middle of the night, otherwise, this scene would definitely attract many people to stop and watch. Wu did not scream, she was just a little surprised that he would use such a method to glare at him, but he turned a blind eye to it. In mid-air, she subconsciously hugged his body, and in a trance, she felt as if they were a pair of intimate lovers. She subconsciously shook her head and hurriedly got rid of this absurd thought. She adjusted her rapid breathing and quietly felt this different feeling. Since she was young, although she had come into contact with a lot of people of the opposite sex, they were all disciples of the martial sect. They were all in awe of her, the sect master's disciple, and did not dare to offend her like this. Ever since she had that intimate relationship with Tang Jing in the 10,000 huge mountains, her heart began to change. Originally, the feeling between men and women was like that, but this time, the feeling was completely different, as if she had peeked into another wonderful world. At this moment, lying in Tang Zhang's arms, a strong sense of security filled her heart. She knew that this arm was a strong safe harbor, and any wind or rain would be blocked outside. Suddenly, a complicated thought arose in her heart. She could not help but be a little envious of Fang Shishir, because she would often lean on this arm and ignore all the wind and rain outside. Bang! Tang Zhang's feet lightly landed on the ground. Wu Ruming woke up and immediately suppressed the complicated thoughts in his heart. He jumped down from her arms and rushed into the bedroom as if he was flying. Seeing her fleeing in panic, Tang Jing smiled bitterly and rubbed his nose. Was he that scary? It was as if she couldn't wait to escape from the claws of a devil. He shook his head, not bothering with these messy thoughts. He calmed his mind and carefully investigated the situation in his body. After that dangerous scene just now, other than being intimate with her, his gains were not small either. Other than the breakthrough of the chaotic Vidra spell, his cultivation had also reached the 7th stage of the Enidia realm after the final moment of the harmony of yin and yang. Looking at the surging innate qi in his body, Tang Zheng was overjoyed. The dragon Yuan Dan was indeed useful, and he had taken too much of a risk previously. It seemed that he could not take 2 pills at once in the future. 1 pill at a time was the most suitable. Not only could it increase his innate qi, it could also temper his body, and it could also prevent the eruption of the pure yang energy. Chapter 556. Train Station. During the Spring Festival, there was a huge flow of people. On the 3rd day of the new year, there were already migrant workers traveling far away by car. Tang Zhang and Marshall stood at the exit of the station, looking at the bustling passengers walking out. Marshall's tall and slender figure made the others pale in comparison, especially the few girls, who avoided her from afar. Because standing near her was too stressful. Marshall was very tall, with a pair of straight and slender legs. Her figure was comparable to that of a professional model, and her beautiful face, all of which were quite lethal weapons. In any case, many people were secretly looking at her. Marshall's eyes looked at his nose looked at his heart, and was indifferent to all of this. Just like Tang Jing, he also looked at the exit, curious as to who exactly he was waiting for. Suddenly, the crowd surged. The train arrived at the station and the passengers exited. Tang Zhang's eyes widened as his gaze wandered through the crowd. Suddenly, his pupils constricted as he locked onto a group of people and quickly walked forward to welcome them. Wu followed closely behind and looked in his direction. Immediately, she saw her target, and it was someone she knew, Yi Yuan. Beside Yi Yuan were 20 to 30 powerful clansmen, and the nearby tourists all avoided them. It was obvious that this group of natural warriors was emitting an aura that no one could enter. An aura. Tang Zhang and the rest also saw Tang Jing. They quickly walked forward with great momentum, and then stood in front of Tang Jing at the same time, all of them standing straight like javelins, as if they wanted to pierce through the heavens. Everyone looked sideways, guessing who this group of people were. The group of people bowed towards Tang Zheng at the same time, and respectfully called out, "Greetings, Lord Envoy." What? Lord Envoy? Many people rubbed their ears, thinking that they had heard wrongly. Could it be that they were filming a movie? But there were no cameras around. Tang Jing did not want to be surrounded by onlookers, so he immediately waved his hand and said, "No need to be so polite, let's get on the carriage and go back first." "Yes, sir." Everyone accepted the order in unison. Tang Zheng was helpless. His prestige in the shaman tribe had already been deeply rooted in his bones, and now, he was probably even more prestigious than the elders of the shaman tribe. It would not be easy to make them not follow the rules and salute him. However, what made him very gratified was that the strength of this group of people had obviously improved a lot. Back then, they were restricted by a mysterious restriction in the 100,000 mountains and could not practice cultivation methods. But now, they were all cultivators, and the weakest was at the foundation establishment stage, which was equivalent to an acquired warrior. The strength of these 30 Ho Tian warriors could not be underestimated. Back then, Tang Jing had taken a long time to reach the foundation establishment stage, but these witch warriors were able to reach this stage so quickly, it was enough to show the innate talent of the witch tribe. In fact, there was a reason for this. Although the shamans were unable to cultivate in the past, they lived in the mountains all year round and had been tempered by the various secret medicines of the elders. Their strength was not weak, and their bodies had long stored a huge amount of treasures. Amongst them, Yi Yuan's cultivation speed was the most terrifying. Right now, he had already reached the 9th stage of the foundation establishment stage, and was only a step away from the Anidia realm. Wu Yi looked at them suspiciously, not knowing why Tang Jing had summoned all these people over with such great momentum. However, she was used to watching and listening less, so she just watched silently. The few of them boarded a bus and an off-road vehicle that they had prepared beforehand. Tang Jing personally drove the off-road vehicle, causing Yi Yuan to be overwhelmed by the favor and almost not dare to sit on it. "Ah, Yuan, it's been hard on you all the way," Tang Jing said. Yi Yuan hurriedly said, "Lord Envoy, it's not hard for us. Everyone is too happy to see you again. The day before yesterday, when we received your notice, we immediately set off and crossed the border. Because we did not have any identity and the inspection for taking a plane was too strict, taking a train was much easier, we snuck into the train station and took the train to Chongqing City. I wonder if this delayed Sir Envoy's plans." Tang Jing laughed, and said, "Don't delay, my matters are not that urgent, I did not expect you all to come so quickly." The elder was afraid that he would delay Lord Envoy's grand plan, so he urged us not to delay in the slightest. "Is the elder all right?" Yi Yuan's face revealed a look of joy, and said, "Elder is very good, now that he has entered the fasting period. According to what Senior Tian Chanzi said, the potential that the elder has accumulated for most of his life has not completely erupted, so his cultivation in the future can only be higher." The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth raised, and said, "Oh, then I really have to congratulate Elder." "Oh right, how is Tian Chanzi's cultivation?" On the phone, he kept hemming and hawing, unwilling to talk about it in detail. Yi Yuan shook his head regretfully. "Senior Tian Chanzi's cultivation is unfathomable, he did not tell us, so we have no way of knowing." Tang Zheng said that this old fellow was still playing a game of secrecy with him. The next time he saw him, he had to make things clear. This fellow used to be a cultivator of the Yuanying realm. He did not know when he would be able to completely recover his cultivation, and at that time, his side would be even stronger. However, although Tang Jing could contact Tian Chanzi, if there was nothing important, he would definitely not contact him. This was because he was afraid that if he contacted him too frequently, he would expose the other party's exact location. Now that technology was so advanced, if the mysterious power in his hands was completely investigated, it would not be good for him. However, this time, he had allowed the witch clan to return to their country due to many considerations. Firstly, he needed people who were strong enough and trustworthy to stay by his side to deal with all kinds of possible dangers. Secondly, his identity as a cultivator had already been exposed, and the existence of the witch clan was no longer a secret. Since everyone knew about it, why not openly pull it out and let everyone see the strength of the witch clan in him? This way, he would be able to shock the younger generation. This was his idea of benefiting from being big and strong. His strength was not only reflected in his business empire, but also in his martial strength. Not only was it a person, but also the powerful martial strength in his hands. This way, in the future, if a small fry like the dragon group wanted to deal with him, they would have to weigh their own weight. Thirdly, the sorcerer tribe lived in the mountains and forests all year round, isolated from the rest of the world. Although they had been training in the mortal world during this period of time, how could a small border country be compared to a big country like Huaxia? In their own country, they would receive more challenges. This way, they could quickly strengthen their foundation and increase their strength. Aren't you afraid of becoming the target of public criticism when you let so many cultivators appear at the same time? Wu finally could not help but ask. The corner of Tang Zhang's mouth curled up, and he laughed. In any case, I am already in high demand, who knows how many pairs of eyes are staring at me. Since that's the case, then let's play a big game and let them see more cultivators. Moreover, the martial sect is in chaos, so they should not have the time to care about the cultivators. The internal strife in the martial sect had undoubtedly given him a chance for the cultivators to take a breather. Wu shook his head. You are too risky. You forgot what Mistress warned you. They suspect that there is another mysterious power behind the martial sect and Li Palace. This power has never appeared. I'm afraid they don't have much of a good impression of cultivators. Tang Zhang's heart trembled, then he shook his head. If we blindly fear wolves and tigers, then what great things can we do? Sometimes, we can't have too many misgivings. We have to take advantage of the momentum and see how far we can go. Risky. Wu curled his lips and commented, obviously not agreeing with Tang Zhang's point of view. Hearing that, Yi Yuan firmly stood on Tang Zhang's side, and said sonorously, We witch clan warriors will follow Lord Envoy's lead. We believe in Lord Envoy's decision. Stubborn. Marshall said disapprovingly. Thinking about that mysterious and unfathomable power, Tang Jing frowned and asked, Aren't there 3 big mysterious organizations in this world? Marshall's Sect, Li Palace and Azure Dragon Palace. Why have I never heard you mention the Azure Dragon Palace? Wu's expression changed slightly as he said in a deep voice, The Azure Dragon Palace is the most mysterious of the 3 great organizations. I heard from Master that even he did not know much about the secrets of the Azure Dragon Palace, and only heard from word of mouth that there was such an organization in this world that was as famous as the Martial Sect and the Li Palace. Tang Zhang could not help but open his eyes wide. There was actually such an inconceivable thing in this world. Even Wu Junshan did not know about the Azure Dragon Palace that was as famous as the Martial Sect. Why did it sound like a lie? But looking at Wu's expression, it was obvious that he was not lying. Could it be that the Azure Dragon Palace was really so mystical that it could escape the eyes of the Martial Sect? Could it be that this Azure Dragon Palace disappeared a long time ago? Tang Zhang let his imagination run wild. Impossible. Although no one from the Azure Dragon Palace has appeared before, this organization definitely exists. It's just that it's too mysterious. Maybe it's hidden in the city, or maybe it's right beside you and me. Tang Zhang laughed out loud. How was this possible? A mysterious organization existing in the streets was like a fantasy. The hardest thing to keep in this world was a secret. How could such a large organization hide? This was definitely a great question. Now that there is the Azure Dragon Palace, the Martial Sect and the mysterious power behind the Li Palace, this is truly a competition for supremacy. More and more people are coming on stage. Tang Zhang could not help but laugh as he teased. The powers are intricate and complicated, then as the target of everyone's eyes, you are in more danger. You should be careful, but you did the opposite and made such a big fuss. I really don't understand you. Wu said doubtfully. Tang Jing shook his head and said, I was too careful in the past. As the saying goes, a good horse is ridden by people, and a good person is bullied by people. From the matter of the dragon group, I finally understood that in order to survive in this world, only by becoming strong enough and having the strength to make others fear me will I try my best to avoid trouble. I don't cause trouble, but I'm even more afraid of trouble. Tang Zhang's words were resolute and decisive, sonorous and powerful, like a heavy hammer striking Marshall's heart. In a trance, she seemed to have seen her master. In the past, when her master was in the martial sect, he was also this powerful. This kind of aura was fascinating. Hey, if you look at me like that, I'll be embarrassed. Tang Jing glanced at her and teased mischievously. Marshall coldly snorted, and said with a false heart, I want to see how you deal with the trouble you cause in the future. Tang Jing shrugged his shoulders indifferently. Chapter 557. Tang Zhang's face darkened as he stared at the entrance of the ordinary balance courtyard. A large group of people were blocking the entrance with sticks and machetes in their hands. They were constantly pounding on the door, trying to rush in. But the door was tightly shut, making it impossible for them to succeed. Ring ring ring. Tang Zhang's phone rang. Young Master Tang, there's a large group of people causing trouble at the ordinary balance courtyard. Lin Hu's anxious voice sounded. I saw them. I'm right outside the door. Do you know who they are? Tang Jing asked calmly. I saw a few familiar faces in the crowd. I've seen them before in the provincial capital, Jade Sand. They're people from the Jade Sand path. Lin Hu analyzed. People from the Jade Sand path. Tang Jing frowned. He had always been in the ordinary balance courtyard and hadn't gone to Jade Sand to cause trouble. Why would people from the Jade Sand path block his door? Don't worry. With me here, these people won't be able to cause any big waves. Tang Jing said. Yes, then we'll open the door immediately and meet you. In fact, the guards of the ordinary balance courtyard had been cleared out in the past few days. The security of the ordinary balance courtyard was in a state of emptiness. Fortunately, no one dared to cause trouble in the ordinary balance courtyard, so it was safe and sound. But he didn't think that the people from the Jade Sand path would rashly come. Lin Hu originally wanted to talk to them, but these people didn't have good intentions. These people didn't want to talk to him at all. Seeing that the situation wasn't good, in order to prevent the guests and staff of the ordinary balance courtyard from being hurt, he made a prompt decision to close the door. Hearing that young Master Tang was outside the door, Lin Hu finally let out a sigh of relief and hurriedly comforted the guests. Tang Zhang had already gotten out of the car. The 30 witch warriors also got out of the car one after another. They curiously looked at the crowd surrounding the door and making a big fuss. Although these people were very loud, they were only shouting loudly. They kept slamming and pushing the door, trying to break in. However, the door was very sturdy, and they couldn't break it in a short time. Tang Zheng walked toward the door step by step. Suddenly, his phone rang again. This time, it wasn't Lin Hu, but Fire Phoenix. Today, Fire Phoenix wasn't at the ordinary balance courtyard. Instead, she was inspecting the situation at several clubs. Unexpectedly, she also encountered troublemakers. Furthermore, all of their properties were attacked by unknown enemies. Without a doubt, these thugs were in cahoots with this group of people. It was truly a big deal. In the ordinary balance domain, it was impossible to find so many people who dared to oppose Tang Jing. Only the Jade Sands domain dared to be so unbridled. Crossing the river, "Humph, I'll turn you into a drowned bug later," Tang Zheng said with a gloomy face. The corner of Marshall's mouth hooked up. Looking at the thugs who didn't know that a great disaster was about to befall them, they couldn't help but feel sad for them. These people didn't even know the background of their opponents, yet they still dared to rashly charge forward. They were simply born to be cannon fodder. Marshall walked to the periphery of the crowd and patted the shoulder of a person who was shouting non-stop, saying, "Make way." That person turned his head and glared at Tang Zheng, saying, "Brat, scram. Do you believe that I won't beat you up?" Tang Zheng's thick eyebrows twitched as he sent out a slap. Pow! That person was like a spinning top, continuously spinning on the spot before finally crashing to the ground. The others immediately noticed the clues and turned their heads at the same time. They angrily stared at Tang Zheng and roared, "Brat, where are you from? You dare to hit our people, are you looking for trouble?" Tang Zheng looked at the other party and asked coldly, "Who sent you here? F***ck, you still dare to question me? I'll cut you to death." The other party punched. Tang Zheng did not move at all. A big hand had already blocked in front of him, holding onto the fist, only to see the fist emitting a creaking sound, and then shrinking bit by bit at a speed visible to the naked eye. The other party immediately let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. Yi Yuan turned a deaf ear to the scream and looked at Tang Zheng inquiringly. Tang Zheng said indifferently, "Since you don't want to speak, then there's no need to." Yi Yuan understood and waved to his clansmen. The group of people were like fierce tigers descending the mountain as they rushed over. Before the other party could even say a few words, he saw a group of people rushing in front of him. Without saying a word, they directly smashed their hammer-like fists onto the other party's body. This was a one-sided slaughter. Tang Zheng was not interested in watching at all. He walked to the door and with a creak, the door opened. Lin, who stood behind the door, and behind him was a group of curious guests. When they saw the martial arts scene outside, they all widened their eyes. Especially since this was an overwhelming battle, there was no suspense at all. Those people were like wheat, being harvested by the Witch Clan warriors at lightning speed. The screams were earth-shattering, and in contrast, none of the Witch Clan warriors made a single sound. They only had calm faces, as if their opponents were really wheat, and the screams did not cause any ripples in their hearts. These guests could not help but tremble as a strong killing intent assaulted their faces. Even the slowest person could feel a different kind of iron-blooded valiance from these people. What kind of team was this? How could they be so strong? In the past, ordinary balance had never heard of such a strong team. Everyone guessed. But without a doubt, one thing was certain, and that was that these were Tang Zheng's men. No wonder he had such great achievements at such a young age. Just these iron blood warriors alone were enough for him to walk sideways in the ordinary balance. The battle ended very quickly. Then, the Witch Clan warriors ignored the enemy who had completely lost their fighting strength and could only scream in pain on the ground. They stood behind Tang Zheng without saying a word, like a silent shadow, emitting a soul-stirring aura. "Lord Envoy, how should we deal with them?" Yi Yuan asked in a low voice. "Drag them away and throw them away. Don't block the door and affect business," Tang Zheng said without batting an eyelid. "Yes." Yi Yuan accepted the order and gestured to the Witch Clan warriors. The Witch Clan warriors started to move, each of them dragging a few enemies as if they were dragging a dead dog, dragging them far away. Then, with a wave of their hands, as if they were throwing a shot put, these people flew towards the bushes in the distance. The guests were flabbergasted. Not only was the fighting strength of this group of big men astonishing, their strength was also too great. They could see with their own eyes that many of them were holding onto two legs in one hand, and directly throwing two people flying. 2 people, 300 kilograms of weight, to them, seemed to be insignificant. This scene was too impactful. They had no choice but to reevaluate Tang Jing. This person was even more powerful than they had imagined. Many people had already secretly made up their minds that they would definitely not be enemies with him in the future. If they could cooperate with him, there would definitely be great benefits. At this point, the influence of the Dragon Group's harsh attack on Tang Zhang's industry gradually disappeared. I'm sorry to disturb everyone's mood. Tang Jing smiled at the crowd and said. Everyone immediately waved their hands and laughed. Young Master Tang is too serious. Today, we have a feast for our eyes. It should be our fortune to be able to enjoy such a good show. The others nodded in agreement. If they had not seen this scene with their own eyes, many people would not have been able to truly experience Tang Zhang's strength. If they were to do something stupid in the future, then the gains would not make up for the losses. Tang Jing smiled and nodded, his gaze turning to a sports car by the roadside in the distance. Sports cars were not rare in the ordinary balance courtyard, but this sports car had been parked by the side of the road ever since Tang Jing got off the car, forming a stark contrast with the other cars parked in the parking lot. Although the glass of the sports car was blocked, Tang Jing could still vaguely see that there was someone in the sports car. Thus, he strode towards the sports car. Vroom. The roar of the engine suddenly sounded as the sports car started. It roared like a wild beast and suddenly turned around, fleeing the way it came. The guests were disappointed, thinking that the one sitting in the sports car must be the leader. If it ran away just like that, then they would not know who the mastermind behind the scenes was. But how could Tang Jing let the other party run away so easily? He coldly snorted and directly walked to a row of iron fences. He casually pulled out an iron rod from the soil. Under the suspicious gazes of the crowd, Tang Jing roared, "Stop for me." Whoosh! The iron rod left his hand like a sharp arrow and went straight to the sports car. Wow! The crowd immediately exclaimed. This scene was really beyond everyone's expectations. Tang Jing actually used an iron rod to block an arrow. How could it catch up with the sports car that was like an arrow leaving the bow? While everyone was still doubting, the iron rod swept across the sky and caught up with the sports car. Bang! The high-speed sports car was pierced through by the iron rod, and the iron rod pierced deeply into the sports car. Then, with a creak, the sports car spun on the spot, and finally, with a boom, it crashed into a big tree on the side of the road and stopped. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air at the same time as they looked at Tang Jing in shock. This attack was too powerful. How much strength did it require? Everyone's gazes shifted towards Tang Zhang's arm. This pair of arms that were no different from a normal person's actually contained such a powerful explosive force. It was truly terrifying. A heart-wrenching and lung-splitting scream came out from the sports car, and it was even screaming for help. Capture him, Tang Zhang said indifferently. Yi Yuan's feet slipped, and like a gust of wind, he arrived in front of the sports car in the blink of an eye. He grabbed onto the deformed door and fiercely pulled, causing the metal door to creak, and then was directly torn off from the body of the sports car. A person was dragged out of the sports car by Yi Yuan like a dead dog, and then dragged all the way towards Tang Jing. Boom! The sports car exploded, turning into a ball of flames that soared into the sky, shocking everyone to the point that their hearts trembled. Yi Yuan threw the captive heavily onto the ground. The other party was gasping for breath as he lay in front of Tang Jing in a sorry state. Tang Jing squatted down and grabbed the other party's hair. A familiar face appeared in front of his eyes. Ah, it's actually you. Tang Jing was extremely surprised. Chapter 558. This person was Lei Jun, who had a conflict with Tang Jing in the shopping mall back then. This time, he had received his father's orders and personally brought people to smash the place, taking the opportunity to vent the anger in his heart. Unexpectedly, enemies were on a narrow road. The enemy he had been painstakingly searching for had no news of him, but at this moment, the other party was standing in front of him alive. He was both surprised and happy. It was truly a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, and obtaining it without any effort. That trace of fear just now vanished like smoke in thin air. As if he had been injected with chicken blood, he became incomparably fearful again. He stared at Tang Jing restlessly, and said, "Brat, so it's you. I've been looking for you for so long, but I haven't been able to find you. This time, don't even think about escaping. If you dare to offend me, I will make you die a miserable death." Tang Jing snorted in disdain, and said, "I think you don't understand the situation. Since that's the case, I'll let you understand the situation first." As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Yuan punched Lei Jun's stomach. Wah! He immediately bent down and vomited acid, as if he was about to vomit out his gallbladder. He then fell to the ground and bent into the shape of a shrimp. You dare to hit me?" Lei Jun pointed at Tang Jing in disbelief. "I'll hit you, what can you do? From what you said just now, you've been looking for me to take revenge, right? Since you haven't given up on me, then I won't let you off. Let's settle the old and new debts together." Tang Zhang's face gradually turned frosty. "New debts and old debts, I should be the one settling them with you. If you treat me like this, my father will definitely not let you off." Lei Jun appeared fierce on the outside, and started to use his father to scare Tang Jing. "Hee, you want to compete with your father, right? I forgot to tell you, I hate people who rely on their father the most. I'm an idiot, and only by relying on my father can I give myself some courage. This kind of life, just thinking about it is very sad," Tang Zhang said in disdain. Lei Jun's face flushed red as he gnashed his teeth in hatred. "Since you want to compete with your father, then tell me, who exactly is your father? I also want to meet him," Tang Zheng asked curiously. "My father is Yushao's Lei Ming. Are you scared now?" Lei Jun said proudly. In the past, whenever he met an opponent, as long as he mentioned his father's name, the opponent would be scared off. There were even people who would kneel down and beg for mercy. Every time this happened, he would enjoy the thrill of the reversal. But this time, he was disappointed. Tang Zheng had no reaction to the name at all. Instead, he said to himself, "Who is Lei Ming? How come I've never heard of him?" "You've never heard of it before?" "Impossible!" Lei Jun cried out in disbelief. Almost all the reputable people in the province knew of Thunder Cry's great name. This person actually said that he didn't know of him, it was too absurd. Tang Jing curled his lips in disapproval and jokingly said, "Is your father so famous that I must have heard of him?" Lei Jun was speechless. When Lin Hu heard the two words Lei Ming, his eyelids fiercely jumped. If it was in the past, he would definitely stay away from this level of people. He would even bow and bend his knees. But now, even if Lei Ming was powerful, but in Lin Hu's heart, he still couldn't be compared to young Master Tang. Young Master Tang, Lei Ming is the big brother of the Jade Sand Road's Dragon Head. He is a powerful character that can cause anyone in the province to tremble if they step on him. Lin Hu softly reminded Tang Jing. Tang Jing suddenly realized that the other side had a bit of background. But he and Lei Ming had no enmity in the past, so why would he send people to deal with him? However, this wasn't the main problem. Now that the other clubs were also under attack, so he had to first deal with the attack and then deal with the main culprit behind it. Tang Jing grabbed Lei Jun's collar and lifted him up. His voice was stern as he said, "Since you've fallen into my hands, you better be obedient. Otherwise, I guarantee that even your father won't be able to save you." You will die a very, very miserable death. So now order your subordinates to stop attacking. If you dare to cause trouble in my territory, I will definitely make you suffer so much that you'll wish you were dead. Threatening me to submit? Then I won't. I want to see what you can do to me. Lei Jun said without fear. In his impression, normal people really didn't dare to touch him, especially those in the underworld. They were even more afraid of his father. Is that so? You asked for it. As his voice fell, Tang Jing grabbed Lei Jun's arm and fiercely twisted it. Gotcha! The bones shattered, and a miserable shriek like that of a pig being slaughtered soared into the sky. Lei Jun's arm was twisted at a strange angle. F***ck, it hurts so much. You mother***ker, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your whole family. Lei Jun loudly shouted. Tang Zhang's face turned cold. In this life, the people he hated the most were those who threatened his family. He grabbed Lei Jun's shoulder and moved his fingers. Gotcha! The bones in Lei Jun's shoulder were all crushed. Immediately, Lei Jun's scream became louder and louder. In the end, it turned into a hoarse whimper. Large beads of sweat flowed down his cheeks. His facial muscles twisted because of the pain and his entire body trembled like a sieve. I'll listen to you, I'll listen to you. He finally hurriedly nodded his head. Tang Jing nodded his head in satisfaction. Make the call quickly. My patience is limited. Otherwise, you won't be able to keep your other arm. Lei Jun hurriedly used his other hand to make a call, ordering his subordinates to stop attacking. When the guests saw this scene, many of them felt their legs go weak and almost fell to the ground. They all looked at Tang Jing in disbelief, not knowing how he could be so calm at such a young age. The storm had come to an end, but it did not stop. Tang Jing called out to Lin Hu to entertain the guests, then waved his hand, allowing Yi Yuan to escort Lei Jun into the carriage. Lei Jun was about to faint from the pain. He kept begging to be sent to the hospital, but Tang Jing turned a deaf ear to him and asked, "Why is your Lei family targeting me? I have no enmity with you, right?" Lei Jun already understood that although Tang Jing looked kind, he was definitely not a good person. Thus, he did not dare to hide anything and betrayed Qin Lao like a bamboo tube spilling beans. Tang Zhang's eyes flashed with a cold light as he muttered to himself, so it's this old fellow. He really doesn't change his nature. Where is he now? Tang Zhang had the intention to kill Qin Lao. Since his opponent did not know what was good for him, and being remembered by such a person was not a good thing, he might as well cut the grass and get rid of the roots. At the same time, he could also test the attitude of the Song family. Take me to see him. Yes, no problem, but can you send me to the hospital first? I'm going to die of pain. Lei Jun begged for mercy with snot and tears. He finally understood the pain of those people who had been stepped on by him in the past. You wish. Of course, Tang Zhang would not let the other party escape. He tapped the other party's body a few times with his finger, and the feeling that entered his heart actually eased a lot. Lei Jun looked at him in disbelief, not knowing what kind of method he was using. In fact, Lei Jun was also a martial artist, but he was not as good as Huang Xiang. Relying on his father, he ate, drank, and played all day long. He was ignorant and incompetent, and his martial arts were almost completely wasted. That was why he was so useless. At this moment, he placed his only hope on his father. Since these people wanted to find his father, he would wait for his father to personally deal with them, and then he would take revenge. Tang Jing did not care about his little thoughts. He suddenly remembered the celebrity called Lu Yanran, so he casually asked, "Wasn't there a celebrity with you last time? How is she?" A trace of anger flashed across Lei Jun's face. He gritted his teeth and said, "That bitch ran away. Damn, she really thinks she's so powerful. Next time when she comes back, I will definitely deal with her. Hee, she's a celebrity. Can you deal with her? So what if she's a celebrity? Nowadays, there are so many celebrities with a price tag. As long as you have money, what kind of celebrity can't you play with? Lei Jun disagreed. Clearly, he was speaking from his experience. In the past, he had dealt with many so-called female celebrities. Tang Jing sighed inwardly. The entertainment circle was dirty and messy. Fortunately, Ling was in his company, so there wouldn't be such a foul atmosphere. But if anyone dared to have any ideas about Ling, or force her to do something against her will, he would definitely stand up and not let them off easily. The two vehicles sped as they arrived at the highway in a short while and headed towards Jade Sand City. But when they reached the highway, Lin Hu chased after them. He knew Tang Zhang's temper. Since Lei Jun dared to come here, then he would definitely not let this matter go. But the other party was Lei Ming, after all. What if they couldn't get any benefits by coming to the other party's territory? Lin Hu could not afford to make any mistakes, so he hurriedly dealt with the matters of the ordinary balance courtyard and chased after them without stopping. Thus, Lei Ming was escorted to the bus. Tang Zheng, Wu, Yi Yuan and Lin Hu sat on the carriage. Lin Hu became the driver, and as he drove, he said, "Young Master Tang, even if you go find trouble with Lei Ming, you can't be too anxious. Otherwise, if you don't prepare enough, all 30 of us might be annihilated." Lin Hu believed that Tang Jing would definitely be able to defeat Lei Ming. However, seeing that he only brought around 30 people and dared to go straight to the Yellow Dragon, he was still a little unsure in his heart. After all, Lin Hu had been in the underworld for so many years, and Lei Ming's great name was like thunder to his ears. He knew more about it than Tang Jing. As the saying goes, those who don't know don't do it. The more you know about a person, the more you understand how powerful that person is. Lei Ming was such a powerful person. Even though he was a member of the underworld, his family had been operating in Jade Sand for 2 generations. The Lei family could be said to be a famous underworld family in Jade Sand. Although they had restrained themselves a lot, where was their background? Ordinary people would not be able to shake this local tyrant. Hearing Lin Hu's analysis, Tang Jing nodded his head in realization. No wonder Lei Jun was so unbridled, his family background was not simple. It is said that Lei Ming can gather over 1,000 people in Jade Sand with a single shout. Our 30 people are like a clay ox entering the sea. The situation is not optimistic. Lin Hu said worriedly. Tang Zheng laughed out loud and said, "You are underestimating Yuan's clansmen too much. They are natural warriors, and this is a good time to train them and let the world see the power of the witch clan. Moreover, as the saying goes, speed is everything. This time, we will take advantage of the fact that he is not prepared and catch him off guard." You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.